Welcome, everyone. We're going to call this meeting to order at 4 p.m. Adoption of the agenda.
That West Elgin Council hereby adopts the regular council agenda for May 28th, 2026 as presented.
Move it, please. Councillor Sousa. Seconded. Councillor Denning. All in favour? All in favour? That's carried. Disclosure of any pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. That's what I just did. Yeah.
Yeah. My apologies. We received a communication from a constituent that I think should be read into record and be available. So I would like to motion at this point that we allow that to be read in when we have the discussion during the meeting.
So thank you, Councillor Statham, for bringing this communication forward. So as this communication was received after the deadline of 12 o'clock noon on Monday, pursuant to section 6.1 of the procedural bylaw 2024-05, council would be required to pass a motion to suspend the rules pursuant to section 3.5 of procedural bylaw, allowing for a late submission to the agenda. So Councillor Statham, are you making this motion to allow for a late submission, which will be read during item 7.3.1, Old Town Hall staff report?
Yes, correct. I would like to make that motion.
Move
Thank
it.
you.
Councillor Sousa. All in favour?
Ryan is the first.
Yeah, a mover.
Yep.
Seconded.
Thank you.
All in favour? That's carried.
So now we'll reread the adoption of the agenda because I have to do it as amended.
Okay, so we go back to adoption of the agenda.
That West Elgin Council hereby adopts the regular council agenda for May 28th, 2026 as amended.
Move it, please. Deputy Mayor Tellier, seconded. Councillor Statham. All in favour? That's carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, the general nature thereof. Yes, Councillor Sousa.
Through the chair, I would like to declare a conflict of interest regarding agenda item 7.2.1. As I am a member of Roots from Revival Committee, I will remove myself from all discussion and voting relating matters to this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Noted. So we go to 4, which is delegations and presentation. And 4.1, Mr. John Kirby, legal representative for Rodney Market. Is he present?
The John online. I don't know if it's him, but.
Mr. John Kirby? Mr. John Kirby? I'm sorry that you just walked in, but I've just been calling your name.
Council chambers. I'm not from these parts, so I didn't.
Okay.
realize that-
Well, if you'd like to get ready and move up to the podium, we'd appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, if you press your button, that's all right. Thank you.
I'm on, am I?
Now you.
That's good, because I have a sore throat today, so if I don't speak loudly or clearly enough, yeah, my apologies. So I see we're first on the agenda. I've seen the report to council from Mr. Greenall, And he's suggesting that this matter be given to staff to review further the material that's been presented, and then we get back together on June 25th, as I understand it. And as I understand it further, we're supposed to make some presentations based on the material that's been provided. I see there's material from the neighbors. We filed a brief on behalf of the Rodney Market. I'm happy to answer any questions you have on that. Other than that, I'll just hit some of the highlights. Now, I know we're in the electronic world and I've still put mine in paper fashion. So we initially had a response time of May 21st to get submissions in. And we've put ours in. We put together what we thought was a suitable means of resolving this issue. And I'll just highlight it for you. My clients will mark all the relevant monuments. I think part of the problem that's arisen is because the laneway is not clearly defined. And if you have a chance to look at our material, we've provided a number of the different maps, the parcel register, the parcel map, the various reference plans that have been done. And actually, if you go back historically, that laneway has been in existence since sometime around 1875. So we're not talking a new laneway or anything of recent times. I did have the opportunity, apparently the neighbor behind Tim had made a presentation at the last meeting that got postponed. I've had a chance to look at that. With respect to the plan that he submitted in support of his pool installation, it's a handwritten plan. It's not done by a surveyor. He indicated that he got approval from somebody at the municipality. But clearly the plan that he shows does not match any of the reference plans or any of the historic plans going back to the 1870s. So I won't spend too much time on that. We've put in our material a lot of the supporting documents, including the various bylaws that are in play with respect to parking, idling. I think it's important to notice the definition of idle does not include trucks that are being operated to operate coolers or freezers on the truck themselves. Feels kind of awkward because really we're advocating for the status quo, and we've been put on at the top of the agenda list. And in the normal course, I would say, you know, the people looking to change the status quo would speak first, and then we'd be given a chance to respond. So I'm basically going to address each of their submissions to the extent that I can, and I'll try not to be unduly repetitive. I think if you look at our brief, the maps are pretty clear. Then we also have a report from Mr. Renzo Ferreira, who's an engineer who attended personally on the site on May 10th to make an firsthand inspection. Again, the one thing that he didn't have was he didn't have a clear delineation of the laneway according to what the actual plan is and what the actual measurements are. Now, since that time, I've had my client go out and locate one of the survey iron bars, and it's basically along the fence line on the properties to the northeast, I guess it is. So there's the row of telephone poles, and the one iron bar that he was able to locate, that I was able to look at and actually see myself this morning, is just approximately parallel to the telephone pole or hydro pole that's on the one side of the laneway. So all of the iron bars have not been located. If you look at the most recent reference plan, or the one from 1997, I think it is, it shows that there's actually a number of iron bars along that stretch. I don't know about you guys, but for me, looking at the reference plan that was registered on title, I had trouble reading it. So I have full-size copies available for you. I want to look at it. And it clearly shows that there are a number of iron bars along what would be the northeast side. I'm sorry, I should have brought that up for you, but I was afraid of tripping over the wire. So you'll see there's a number of iron bars along the northeast side. And I think the rest of those iron bars were located.
Yeah, can you please go near the microphone because we have people online that would like to hear too.
I'm sorry. So when you look at the reference plan, I've provided a few copies. I can get you more if need be. Along the northeast side, there's a number of iron bars that were shown to be there. I believe it's in 1973. As I say, my client has located one of them, so it shouldn't be that difficult to clearly identify where the laneway is. And the laneway is 19.8 feet wide. When we're on site, and the survey should be updated to clearly show where the adjoining properties are, but I've read more than one comment about the storm sewers on the, what would be the west side of the laneway being damaged. You'll note from the engineer's report that he doesn't think they've been damaged at all. He believes that they're set in as they were designed. Properly marked, that laneway would not come close to those storm sewers. And I think that's what adds a lot of confusion to the use of this laneway. So near Mariah Street, shortly back on the first property there, there's a number of trees that are actually wrapped around the hydro lines. And I have pictures if you wish to see those. Those are actually a hazard and should be removed. And I think Ontario Hydro has responsibility for that. At the back of our brief, I've provided the hydro guidelines with respect to that issue. And so what's happening is as the trucks are being backed in, they're being pushed over to the west side of the laneway. And that's probably why they've been going closer to the properties on the west than ideally they should be. They should be closer to the properties on the east and be able to back up without any obstruction. So just as a matter of, take it for what it's worth, I'd have your engineers go and check out those trees as they're wrapped around the hydro lines. That's a definite safety hazard. I believe there's municipal liability if something goes amiss in that respect. So aside from that, those trees are actually on the laneway itself based on what we're able to determine from the most recent survey. And it does appear that the fence line on the northeast side, which is what abuts the adjoining properties on Stinson Street, appears, and you can't say it definitively, but it appears to be in line with the property lines based on the single survey bar that we've seen. Again, Mr. Ferrer mentions in his report that there seems to be encroachments onto the laneway. A visual inspection did not disclose any potholes at all on the laneway. And you'll see further in his report, he makes reference to the Municipal Maintenance Act that clearly identifies potholes. He didn't observe any. There are cracks in the pavement, but that's not uncommon on any street.
Excuse me, Mr. Kirby, I'm going to ask you to start to wrap it up because we allow 10 minutes.
I'm sorry.
No, if you would like to wrap it up,
Yeah.
and
It's the nature of my profession to talk too much.
I know.
So with respect to the adjoining properties, their concern over their pools and the loss of privacy, those pools only went in the last couple of years. Yeah, they chose to put them joining a commercial property. The recommendations that we've put into our submissions would allow for the trucks to operate totally within the existing bylaws without any exception. And they're summarized in my letter of May 21st. They will take action to instruct the drivers to back up so they're no closer than 1 meter to the adjoining owner's driveway into the laneway. In terms of idling, they will instruct all drivers to immediately turn their trucks off, except for those who are operating refrigeration equipment. They will provide all transportation carriers and delivery drivers using the laneway with a copy of the notice that's attached to our material. And they will, with the approval of the municipality, delineate a line on that laneway so all drivers clearly know the limit of where they can stop so that the driveways are always clear. In addition to that, with the approval of the municipality, they would put a sign up or have the sign put up at their expense so that a truck driver sitting in his truck can see where that limit is. And they will ensure that every truck backs up beyond that point.
Thank you.
Didn't realize 10 minutes goes so fast, but it's the nature of doing these things. If you would like any comments on the other presentations, I'm happy to make them. Simply ask that you look at it carefully and from a rational point of view. I know issues like this can often become emotional. To encourage you to just look at the facts as they are and use that as your guide for making a decision. I get the impression we'll be back on June 25th, so if there's any questions that arise between now and then, I'll simply show up and not talk too much except to answer questions, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so with that, we move on to 4.2. Mr. Paul Morrissey, if you'd like to take the stand, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, councillors and municipal staff and administration for giving us this opportunity to address this issue. I'm here on behalf of Don Geddes and Keith Montgomery, who live at 151 Mariah Street here in Rodney. I'll try to be brief and practical because this is a very practical problem with a straightforward solution. But first, I know my clients want to address something that might be in some people's minds. There's been unfortunate stories and rumors circulating about my clients being anti-Rodney Market, wanting to interfere with its operations. And of course, this couldn't be further from the truth. Don and Keith acknowledged that the market is a valued and important part of this community. It enhances it, and they're happy. The owners have invested in the community, and they would like to see it succeed, and they welcome other investments the owners are planning. So the problem, of course, is only related to the use of that laneway. I did provide a submission. It doesn't look like it. It looks like it might not be in front of councillors or staff right now. It was submitted on the 21st. I was going to refer to some of the appendices in that submission, but some of you may have read the submission and may remember what the appendices state, but that's what I'm going to do right now. So Don and Keith are the owners of the property at 151 Mariah, and they and other property owners have historically relied upon the municipal laneway, which Mr. Kirby has helpfully indicated has been there since the 1800s. They use that to access their properties and their garages. And what's happening, of course, is large transport trucks are backing into the laneway to reach the market's delivery doors. And when they do that, they block the laneway and they prevent residents from entering their properties from the laneway, using the back laneway to for the purpose of their property. And it's always been there and been able to be used in that way. And they're remaining there for 20 or 40 minutes, anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes. It's not taking 5 minutes to unload it, to back in a transport truck, unload it. And so the estimates that have been provided by Mr. Kirby are very optimistic in terms of timing. It's taking much longer than that. And sometimes they're running their engines for the entire time. And residents can't access their properties. They experience noise, diesel fumes, and there's safety and property damage concerns, which I'll address in a minute. And 20 minutes may not seem like that long to be impeded from pulling out of your garage, but if you're late for an appointment, if you're on your way to work, if you're going to the airport, if there's something you have to do quickly, it is more than just a nuisance. And Mr. Montgomery actually operates a truck repair business, a mobile truck repair business, which means he gets calls from trucks that are broken down on the 401, on Highway 3 or wherever, and he leaves and heads out to the site. And having to wait 30 or 40 minutes to respond to that call is, of course, a major nuisance and irritant for his business operation. And when we go to diesel fumes, obviously, if you're in your backyard, whether or not you have a pool, if you want to have a family celebration, you know, grandparents' birthday party, a baby shower, Father's Day barbecue or whatever, and you have a diesel truck meters away from the fence rumbling and the exhaust fumes working their way into your yard, it's not a nice thing. Nobody wants that. So the neighbors support Rodney Market. They simply want deliveries to be handled in a way that respects their property rights and respects municipal bylaws. So there's a problem. There's a reason this problem has arisen. And I'm quoting from an email that we included in our materials from Canada Cartage, one of the transport carriers, which has decided to modify how it's carrying out its deliveries, because you can do that, right? And it's noting that the author of the email, who might be presenting today, she noted that when the laneway was created, it was not being used by 53-foot, 3-axle trailers, sometimes weighing up to 114,000 kilograms. Times change, delivery methods change, but the laneway has not changed. There's no problem with the smaller trucks coming in and out. They're able to move right to the back of the store and affect their deliveries. It's the big ones that are causing the problems. And I'm going to refer very quickly to the appendices to the submission we made on May 21st, because that's going to give some photographs that may be helpful for those who have a copy. At Appendix A, of course, we have one of Don and Keith's garage doors, you can see, that backs onto the laneway. And Appendix B, we can see the second garage door that backs onto the laneway. Okay. And I should add that Mr. Kirby spent some time talking about the dimensions of the laneway. I don't think that's the problem here, okay? The problem is what's going on in the laneway. So we can see Keith and Don's 2 garage doors, and then at Appendix C, we can see a truck that is backed in, and it is effectively blocking their garage doors. It's also blocking the garage door, or at least impeding access from the garage door for the property on the other side of the laneway that's owned by Mr. Ganhadero, who's here today. When these trucks come down Mariah Street, the large ones, they can't pull in. They're backing in. And what they're doing is they're going down Mariah Street and then having to sort of jackknife the truck a little bit to get into the laneway. And there's a problem there because there's a hydro pole on one side of the street and one on the other, and somehow they have to manipulate that truck through that spot. And Canada Cartage has pointed out that some of the trucks end up going onto privately owned lots across the street and to pull in and reverse, and some have been seen striking the hydro poles as they try to ease in. And in the process, they are also backing into a laneway that Mr. Ganadero, anyway, has been told, they're backing into a laneway and crossing drainage grates. And Mr. Ganadero has been told that, that those grates are his, okay? Because he's come to the municipality before and asked questions about repair and maintenance of those grates. These trucks are going over those grates. And you can see that in at Appendix D of our submission. You can see one of the grates. You can see the tire treads from the truck going across it. And I know that there's an engineering report that was delivered. I hadn't seen it until May 21st. So we don't have a responding engineering report. And it's not really so much our issue as Mr. Ganadero's issue. But you can see the concrete around that grate is badly cracked. The grate seems to be sinking. It's not a good situation that he has to deal with. And I suppose that's his problem. You know, he can start a lawsuit against the truck companies, but we know who wants to encourage litigation? You know, who wants to encourage conflict, lawsuits when there's another way to do things? The bylaw, or the blockage of the laneway was brought to the attention of bylaw enforcement. Bylaw officer Andrew Keeler, I don't know if he's here today. Don't think so. He's probably out there enforcing the bylaws. He came out and he recognized there was an issue. He indicated he would speak with the trucking companies, and if the violations continued, he would speak with the market. And a copy of his email to that effect is in our submission as Appendix F. Some, like Canada Cartage, do not realize this was occurring, and they've modified, they inspected and modified their delivery method. Okay? And an email from them is at Appendix G. Some did not. At Appendix H, you can see an email from Day and Ross, and I wrote to them, and they said, we don't even deliver to the Rodney Market. So we sent them a video of them going in there for 30 minutes to deliver to the Rodney Market, and also striking a hydro pole. Okay. And so they said, oh, okay, well, maybe we do deliver to the Rodney Market, but we do that, and I'm quoting from their email, which is at Appendix H. We have been advised by our operations team that their deliveries are per instructions from the customer. Deliveries must be completed in the manner currently directed by their customer. So what they're saying is they're being instructed that that's how they have to do it by the market. And I should emphasize this is not just happening for 30 minutes. Sometimes trucks are coming in as early as 6:30 in the morning and waiting for the market to open. It happens to be their first stop of the day, or perhaps they were going to other stores that were open earlier, and they're parking in the laneway, engines running, waiting for the market to open. And we're not going to get a bylaw enforcement officer out at 6:30 in the morning, nor should we have to. And my clients don't want to go out in their pajamas to ask the driver to turn off his engine either. We don't want to have confrontation. We just want a solution. And fortunately, there is an easy solution, very easy. A number of the companies are using it already. It's in our submissions at Appendix I. And I've mapped out in that appendix at least 4 ways that deliveries can be effected without blocking the laneway. Okay. The first one is parking on the east side of Fernville Road and unloading, and trucks do that. Some of the trucks do that. Okay. You can back in from Fernville Road to the delivery door, and that's marked in red on my drawing. Okay, and some of the trucks are doing that. You can enter from Mariah Street, stop when the trailer doors are in proximity to delivery doors, and then exit through the lot market to Stinson Street, because that lot behind the market, fronting on Stinson Street, is also owned by the Rodney Market.
I'm going to ask you to start to wrap up, please.
Okay, all right. And so there's at least 4 ways that this problem can be addressed, okay? And these alternatives are currently being used by some of the delivery trucks, while some are continuing to back in from Mariah Street to unload, thereby obstructing the laneway, okay? So we're asking council to affirm enforcement of the bylaws, encourage alternative delivery methods, and consider signage or enforcement. We can't, nor should council be telling the market how deliveries shall be affected. That's their business decision. But we can encourage them to respect the municipal bylaws, not block the laneway, not leave their engines idling. And one way we could do that is by firstly putting appropriate signage up about parking, about stopping in the laneway, about leaving engines idling. And we could strongly encourage, and I suspect with the right amount of encouragement, the owners of the market who want to be responsible citizens, I'm sure, would accede to the municipality's requests. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Councillor Statham.
Thank you. Just one question. Could you clarify for me what you mean by the right amount of encouragement? Could you clarify that statement, please?
Yeah, that was sort of a sneaky phrase, wasn't it? Nobody wants people to be forced to do things, and so carrot and stick approach. There has to be enforcement of the bylaws, and if the lane is being obstructed, and if it's not just my clients, it's the people 1 meter further down the laneway than my clients. It's the people on the other side. We don't want it obstructed. We're hoping that a strong message can be sent to the market that we are really happy you're here, but please use the alternative methods. Please encourage the drivers to use alternative methods, which some of them are doing.
Thank you. With that, we go to 4.3. Rob Granaderio. He's the owner of a abutting property to Rodney Market.
Good afternoon. I'm the owner of 229 Fernville Road, 227 Fernville Road, and 220 Stinson Road. I believe these are my properties. So I would prefer to keep them my properties. They're for personal use to myself, not other people. We have the trucks going over top of the other properties, which are my properties, because they have no room to move in through the driveway. On the first page, that's if everybody's got, that's your business, your trucks, runs on your property, perfect image. Second page, I was told that there's no damage done to the grates. Well, you can see on top on the second page. Third page, if the water goes low enough, you can see the damage on the bottom of the grate, which is usually the weakest point of when they get crushed. They also said that there was no trucks ever parked on the grates. Well, that's on the fourth page. Pictures don't lie. Fifth page, you can tell it was backed through there, as well as it's blocking my doors. That I am extremely busy at the other shop. This is why I bought this shop, so I could use it for overflow of vehicles. And I have come out here to get vehicles and been told to get off the driveway. And I always wait for them to move for me to get my vehicles out, and I always have a driver with me, which is costing me money to have. So again, the next page, they're on top of the grates again. I've seen a truck lose all its antifreeze down the grates. They're claiming they're my grates, so I guess I should speak over them. And the next page, same thing. And then when we get into the following page with the vehicle that I have parked there, so the trucks don't turn around there, which I shouldn't have to do that on my own property, but I kind of guess I have to. You can see the sinkhole starting without weighted vehicles, that wouldn't be happening. And then the next page with the damage on the building that I called the grocery store about. They hit the bin and the bin hit the building. And I told them, I says, you know, what's gonna happen here? It's nothing, we're not paying for it. So I said, well, if it happens one more time, I'm gonna put a barrier across on between both buildings so you guys don't get across because I'm not paying for the expenses of my own building that somebody else has done. I totally feel that this is my piece of property. All three pieces of property are mine and they are private to me, not anybody else. And trucks are definitely do not fit through there. I think that's pretty all I have to say.
Is that it? Thank
think
you,
so.
thank you. That's noted, thank you. So we go to 4.4, Liz Wright. Is Liz Wright here?
Yes.
Canadian Cartage Courier Service. Welcome.
So I will say I am far from being professional like everybody else.
We just pop the button in the middle, Liz. Thank you. Yep.
There you
All
go.
right, so I'm here in a way to represent my own company because there's a whole bunch of things I'm trying to avoid. Bad publicity, everything else with the name of my company out there. I can't control the other ones. There's also a lot of concerns with where we are going with these trucks. I have tried to stop my guys from going down the alleyway and telling everybody to come in, and I can never say the word right. Funeral? No, funeral? The main road, anyway, we're gonna call it the main road. So I'm trying to get everybody to go in there, but now I'm having the problem is they're being told, no, use the alleyway. I've made it very strict to my guys, do not use that alleyway, come in off the main road. Since then, unfortunately, the cars that used to park beside what I call the Ford building, I have, actually, if you go on Google Earth, you'll see they used to park nice and tight, right? Now they're out about 6 feet, 7 feet. The skids are all over the place. So now they're just making it darn well impossible for us to come all the way back where we need to go. So this is kind of a little problem as far as I'm concerned, games. There's a couple of things the other guys were saying. Idling and whatnot. A lot of the trucks have tailgates on them. The idling is gonna stay probably on, because the trailer batteries aren't always the strongest in the world to go up and down with the tailgate delivering the product. Anything coming in there with reefers, they run separate, it's a separate engine on the front of the trailer that keeps everything cool, for everything. To sewers, like a few people have been talking about the sewers. A main sewer on a main road can carry up to 110,000 pounds. Okay, easily, I can park my truck on it. I'm not worried about it. Nothing's going to happen. I can't figure out what weight the ones in the back alley that we've seen pictures of the trucks on. My concern is my trucks are going to maybe fall through this. We're gonna back in and all of a sudden there's gonna be that day where everything goes through. And well, now who's coming after me? Like me being Canada Cartage. I don't want that responsibility myself. I see the laneway. I've been coming out here ever since the first complaint came in to represent our company that we're trying to address it, to stop all the stress everywhere. Okay, but so I've been coming out here, but over the time I've been coming, if you look at the laneway, as you call it laneway, I call it alley, the ground is sinking down. I mean, it maybe back in the day, it was built for a 36-foot trailer. Okay, we're now pulling 48s, and we're pulling 53s. Walmart has a 60-foot trailer. Okay, I accidentally told somebody back here the wrong weights. Okay, about the kilograms. If that triaxle is weighted out and it's the first delivery, it has a possibility of 118,000 plus pounds inside that trailer. Combination load. Now, when they turn down, and I'll probably say that wrong too, Morea Street. So when they make a left coming in off the highway, when they're first presenting themselves coming down that road heading towards the alley, it is impossible, like next to impossible, to pass the alley and go in backwards because there is a pole on both sides. Okay, so what they're doing is going down the street a little bit farther, and the big lot, which I've seen on the map, and it's labeled 222 on it. They're doing, ever whose property that is, they're going through. But on a vehicle, especially a Triton, 3 axles, when you're making a corner that tight, it chitters. So that is happening on your streets, and ever who owns that parking lot is doing damage there too. This is why they're hitting the poles and everything else. And again, I don't want Canada Cartage. I don't want the $15,000, $20,000 bill to be fixing the pole when my guys accidentally drop it down. So now someone, not sure who, has instructed people to drive down there. Drive down the alleyway going forwards. Great concept. The noise is away from everybody. It's up on their property. That's fine. But some of my trucks can't make the hook back through that back parking lot. So now they're backing out. So with them backing out, with the Ford building and the house, they can't see if anyone is coming. They can't see children. They can't see cars. They can't see anything until the trailer has already blocked the entire road. Plus with them doing the really sharp turns out there, if there's any children or anything out there, or even cars don't understand what we do in trucks, okay? They just don't. You know, they'll crawl right up on us, and we got our 4-ways on, and we're like, yeah, we need to back up. But they crawl in, and we can't see them. There's tons of blind spots on here. Like I have a thing with the children. I don't ever want to see something like that happen before, again, ever. The trucks nowadays, they also have a, what they call DEF. I'm not sure if any of you guys are familiar with that. Trucks run on diesel. So some smart person came up with the idea of putting what they call DEF in our trucks. It's kind of like another fluid that burns through the system. It's supposed to be better for the environment. The problem with this is the trucks constantly go into what we call a regen. Okay, if you ever see the trucks going down the road and all of a sudden you see big puffs of smoke pounding out of it, that's regenning going down the road. Sometimes when you park, the truck forces you into a regen. Okay, and when it does that, basically the truck will go automatically. You can't do anything about it. It'll go automatically up to about 10 to 1200 RPM, and it will pour DEF in, which then pours smoke, and it's not very nice smelling, let me tell you. Out there, I think they were talking about my letter I sent a little while ago. I think we pretty well covered all that. I've been instructing all my guys to come in off the main drag because it's very easy to do. It's more of a challenge going in the other way. And again, I'm very concerned that we're gonna cause damage or me is the big thing about the children. When I was a kid, man, where did I want to ride? Not on the sidewalk. I want to playing around in the alleys. I want to play around. I want to play hide and go seek. That's what I used to do when I was a kid. That's where I'm going to be playing. Not on the main drag. Where if we bring trucks in from there, I don't see a problem. And that's where I'm forcing my guys, until we have all this settled, this is where I'm trying to force all my guys to come in there. But I have to be able to do that. And right now I have cars blocking me. I got skids friggin' put out in front of me. Like, how can I do that? And they're being told, against what I say, to go back and use that alley. No, I'm telling my guys to come in off the main drag. It's safer for now, until you guys make a decision on any of this. Okay, that's all I got. You got questions?
Councillor Sousa, Statham, sorry.
So we've got the same last name. It's okay. It's close. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it, Liz. Thank you very much for coming in and helping us out. And I appreciate meeting you on site. It was back in the winter, I think, that we met.
Yes.
I did have one question for you. So you mentioned the blind spots that would exist coming in off Mariah. I just wondered, would those blind spots also exist when the trucks are backing in on Furnival across the walkway? Because you'd have the far side of the truck, the mirrors would not expose. So if you're crossing a municipal sidewalk, would those blind spots also exist on the far side of the truck where you
So-
could see his mirrors?
Where it gets worse is when they go down the small side street and they do a U-turn and they come back. They're doing what we call a blind spot, a blind backup, which means that I can't see a left mirror at all. Only thing I see is my truck. And going this way, we always suggest doing it the other way, where in front of the store, I would be coming up and I would be able to see everywhere that the trailer is going on this side. The only blind spot would be right directly behind me for the actual tractor. When we do that, people and everything, you would just see things so much easier out there.
Sure. Yeah, no,
Where I get worried about is the bushes, the trees, the buildings. I'm not very happy. I caught one of my guys backing completely across that road. I don't know if a kid's coming down the sidewalk, like, they have no idea. They're pulling out in front of cars.
I guess my question is if you're backing in off of Furnival on the opposite side of the trailer, the driver would not be able to see that, whether they're approaching from the 401 or whether they're approaching from Pioneer Line to the south.
You always have blind
When-
spots on the truck.
So
But
so
it
I,
is much better to always have normal backup, what we call it, where when we're turning, the trailer's going off this way on me.
okay,
When you do it the other way, there's a lot more blind spots and a lot more risk.
right.
Which I think the Day and Ross guy, they hit the pole out there. He was trying to go up into that parking lot I call 222 and try to hook himself in, which is next to impossible. And that's why he couldn't see the pole. He forgot it was there and then backed into the pole.
Okay, I guess Mike, just to be specific on the question, would the blind spots still exist on Furnival? Given that it's a higher traffic roadway would the blind spots still exist on a main thoroughfare and a county road? Would those blind spots still be there?
No matter where we back in, you're always gonna have blind spots, like you're going to, but we can also keep an eye on traffic. And it's not like it's a very busy road.
Yep.
And at least out there, I'm dealing with cars.
Sure.
Cars, trucks, tractors, whatever the heck is out there. It's a lot easier to negotiate out there than the gazillion variables that are in that alley.
That's perfect. I understand that. And then just one follow-up question. You mentioned the regen, and I'm familiar with those. We have trucks at work. I totally get it. How often does the truck perform a regen, roughly?
I can't even answer that. I have trucks that are doing them every bloody day. And I have trucks that they're always on the highway, so they don't get the soot buildup, I guess. And basically it gets taken care of out in the highway. It's a hit and miss when it's going to get you. It's not like there's a gauge or anything that says, hey, you're getting really close to that danger zone, but they go into the regen and you can't move them. That's the problem. Once they're in that mode, you can't. So where you're sitting, like it blows smoke, it stinks. Like I don't even want to be around it. And I've been dealing with trucks for over 35 years. It just stinks.
Okay, so would it be safe to say, every 400 to 600 kilometers roughly for a regen?
It's a hit and miss, right?
Sorry?
Sneezing, sorry.
Okay, I'm just asking questions. I'm just curious to hear. Keith, I appreciate your input there. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, I do know our CIO has a comment, and to be able to bring that forward, to put it on the end of these delegations, I have to have a mover and seconder. Because
Yes.
we might as well deal with this while we're all here.
Just to confirm what Mayor Leatham is indicating is to bring CAO Greenall's report forward as it is in the staff report section of the agenda. If council would like to review that report now while the delegates are still here, then I would just need a motion to move that report forward.
I will so
Move
move
it.
that.
Deputy Mayor Tellier, seconded. Councillor Denning, all in favour? That's carried. If I could call on you, Madam CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to pull the report, though it is a short report. Council, as you read in your agenda already, and as we have in the past report that has been presented to council, what we are asking is council to give us direction to take all of this information back, to review it with our own legal counsel, and then to bring back no later than June 25th, the report on how to address the situation. If we come back at June 11th, we will make sure all parties are aware that the information is going to be presented, but the motion in the report is to direct staff to go back and to return a finalized report for your consideration no later than June 25th.
Okay. Any questions on that? Councillor Statham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Are we going to discuss this later in the council meeting? Are we going to discuss this later, or is this the time to have discussion? Okay. So I guess for me, the foundational question here is whether or not the laneway is municipally owned. Do we have from staff, can somebody comment on that? That to me is the foundational question here that we're all looking at, whether or not that laneway belongs to the municipality or not, because I don't want to become embroiled in a private dispute from a municipal standpoint. So I don't know if that's an answer that we can have today, or if that's something we need to look into.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
Dave, would you like to answer? Sorry.
Thank you. We reviewed all the documents from the Ontario Land Registry, and it's indicated that municipality is responsible for 19.8 feet of laneway between the two buildings, so that it is municipally owned property.
Thank you, Dave. And I just had one follow-up through you, Mr. Mayor. Would staff be able to clarify for me what aspects of this particular matter fall within municipal jurisdiction and which aspects of this issue are civil matters between private parties?
If I may, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
My understanding is that there would be a violation of our parking bylaw and our idling bylaw. Therefore, we do need to address trucks being able to deliver to the rear of the facility when they would be in contravention of those bylaws.
My apologies.
Call the roll, yeah.
Yep, sorry, one more. Would staff be able to comment, again, this one's a little bit out of left field, but on the economic and community value that the Rodney Market provides to Rodney and West Elgin?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I don't think we have information in front of us which we can give you the cost per person or the value. However, we do know that this market is the only grocery store within sort of near vicinity, or at least walking vicinity, of the village of Rodney. Has been established here for many years, of which they have been providing goods and services to this community. But if you're asking for a value, that's not something we have on hand.
I understand. Like I said, out of left field. Last question. From the municipality's perspective, aside from the bylaw concerns, are there any demonstrated safety, emergency access, traffic, or associated concerns with the current use of the laneway?
I think, Mr. Mayor, in the report, we can probably address that question for you. It is one of the issues that has been brought up both by the safety coordinator from Canada Cartage and by other delegations. And so within the body of the report, we'll make sure to address those questions.
One more? Okay.
I'm so sorry. One more question. I'm wrapping this up, I promise. I just had a bunch of notes and I'm trying to look through them and make sure that that I ask everything that I was considering. If I may, what are the potential legal or financial risks to the municipality depending on how council proceeds?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I would take that question away and defer it to legal counsel so that legal counsel can brief council as a whole.
Thank you, Robin. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Further questions? Seeing none.
Oh, I have a question.
Oh, Deputy Mayor Tellier.
No problem. Thank you. And through the chair. So just see a discrepancy between the last time when we had a delegation from Mr. Blaine and what we're hearing now from Mr. Sharon in regards to Mr. Blaine claims that he pays taxes on part of the alleyway and owned it. Or am I completely wrong that that was said at all? I'm just trying to remember from last meeting exactly how that went. So if in your report we can have clarification on that, that would be great as well.
Okay. Is there an answer for that one?
I believe, Deputy Mayor, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe, Deputy Mayor, you were asking me to do a takeaway and answer that within the body of the report.
Exactly, please, if we can address the claim that Mr. Blaine had, and I believe he had something from our previous planner, Heather, and yeah, if that can be part of the report, that would be much appreciated.
Mr. Mayor, the question is duly noted.
Questions noted. Thank you. Yes,
Mr. Mayor, through you, just one comment I wanted to make to all involved parties. Involving the municipality in this, I just want to be clear on this, that I think all councillors, and I can't speak for anybody other than myself, but we are evaluating this based on the impact that this is going to have on the municipality. We're evaluating this based on fairness, on the evidence that's been presented, and the interest of the community. And it's a very broad, sword that you're asking us to wield here. So I just want to make sure that to all parties, we are looking at all of the options. I mean, that's how I feel. And I think the rest of council would echo that. So this is not a, Keith, I recognize that you were upset with some of the questions that I'm asking. Please understand that we are asking those questions to evaluate this issue effectively with the best interest of the whole municipality in mind. So I apologize that upset you, but we're going to ask questions, and that's fair for us to do. Thank you.
thank you for that. And any further questions? Seeing, Councillor Sousa?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just want to point out that I want safety to be the number one concern. Like I'm really, really worried about that back alleyway. I'm worried about coming off Main as well. I think we should look at the safest way for these trucks to have access. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I think that we've discussed it thoroughly. And I'm going to call for a 5 minutes break.
Oh, no, I need a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Can I read the recommendation?
Yes, you can.
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from R. Greenall, CAO, regarding deliveries occurring upon and bylaws applicable to the roadway between Furnival Road and Stinson Street that is used to deliver goods to the Rodney Market, and that West Elgin Council directs staff to review the information presented by the delegations and return a report on or before the June 25th, 2026 council meeting.
Mover. Councillor Statham, seconded. Councillor Sousa, all in favour? That's carried. Thank you. We're going into a 5 minute break. Okay, we'll start again and adoption of the minutes.
That West Elgin Council hereby adopt the minutes of May 14th, 2026 as presented.
Mover, please. Councillor Statham, seconded. Deputy Mayor Tellier, all in favour? That's carried. Business arising from the minutes? Seeing none. We go to 7, which is staff reports, infrastructure and development. Dave, it's over to you.
Thank you. A couple months ago, I brought to you a committee of the whole meeting talking about a new garbage RFP. The results came in, and we received 3 bids that closed on May 15th. We were reviewing the cost of service, the operational capacity, experience and qualifications, customer service standards, and references from municipalities and past experience, and the ability to be able to meet municipal service needs. The recommended contractor that we got out of the RFP was Waste Connections. They are our current operator of our system right now. They provided the best overall pricing, and they met all the operational and service requirements that were requested in the RFP. The annual pricing that they submitted was $413,000 and plus, so plus 189, and that it'll go up over the years as cost of living increases as well. The second lowest bidder was 417,000, and the third was 659,000. So there was a substantial gap after second place, but it was all developed through the RFP. In the RFP, we also offered a 4-bag and 6-bag option to see the difference in pricing that we could acquire from both services. In Waste Connections submittal, they they offered the same pricing for 4 and 6 bags, where the other ones had additional costs. But as the additional baggage is available, it's going to increase costs on the other end of our equation, where we pay for garbage to get delivered to the City of Toronto site at Southwold. As we get a discounted value to deliver the garbage there. Some of the cost impacts that happened through the RFP to our current contract, there was a $1,500 a month increase in urban areas and a $7,000 a month increase in rural areas as they go out. That was one of the concerning things that I had when we got our RFP, but that's how the cost has gone up over the last couple of months with gas prices and equipment prices rising as well. One of the items I talked about in my committee of the whole meeting was adding provisional items to the contract. One of the provisional items was adding a toter cart for all our residents in the urban area. One of the good things that came out of this was Waste Connections offered zero cost toter carts for all our residents, not just urban, but rural as well. If we were looking to expand the service out, to them, it's a value for safety, and they can pick up the garbage quicker too as well. So it's a win for both as the providing of service of toter carts out into our residents. So that our residents get a free toter cart and the ability to put the garbage out on an easier capacity. One of the other provisional items was the recycling pickup for businesses in the urban areas. So the urban areas, we received a price for that, and I'm going to come forward with a future report, because there's going to be a lot of impacts on how that price is going to get paid out, because around different municipalities in Ontario, that cost is borne by the businesses, not by the municipality. And I want to make sure that we can reach out to the business owners and figure out how we're going to handle the change. So the pricing we got was about $12,000 a month, but I still have to clarify something with the bidder about the delivery of the recycling itself. As the recycling, we don't take recycling anymore at our facilities. It's through a third party. So that's one thing that we need to get clear on as we move forward. Does anybody have any questions about the RFP or the process?
Yes, councillor.
Through the chair, Dave, I just have a question. Several campers reached out to me in the past week and asked, is the garbage pickup for the Port Glasgow Trailer Park, is that included in that budget, or is that a separate budget?
The garbage for Port Glasgow Trailer Park is on the Port Glasgow Trailer Park budget. This is a residential collection only.
Thank you.
Yes, councillor Denning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through the chair. Dave, thanks for the report, and it's actually really nice to see that you were able to secure a 7-year contract with only cost of living increases year over year. The toter carts, you've exemplified the benefit to the company. What are the benefits from your perspective to the residents of these toter carts?
I personally have a toter cart at my house, and I couldn't imagine going back. So the residents, I believe, will get a full experience where they can fill their garbage up from their house and then just roll it to the road at the perceived pickup day, or not the actual pickup day, and on time. And it's a large benefit on this, so they won't have to provide garbage cans for themselves anymore. That alone is a big benefit too. So.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair. And so with these toter carts, are garbage bags then not obligated? You wouldn't need to use a garbage bag to put into the toter carts. You could just put the garbage in them.
I personally put my garbage bags in the toter carts, just so you can keep it ordered. But like, if you threw loose garbage in your garbage in the tote from the bag, there's more chance for spillage to happen. And I highly recommend you still keep your garbage in a bag, whether it be a kitchen catcher or a garbage bag itself, but it's up to the homeowners on, and I suggest that for cleanliness as they go around in the route. So.
Deputy Mayor Tellier, please.
Thank you, and through the chair. Thanks so much for your report, Dave. I know we talked about the toter carts before, so that's great to see that, and all your hard work on the contract. We had a couple issues with our current collector, and I'm just wondering if the list of issues you have were negotiated within this contract. I also wondering about the lifespan of Southwold. Do we know the lifespan of that to have our garbage sent there and what that looks like? And then lastly, regarding the toter carts again, you said the urban areas. So is that people with a house number? And if you have 911 number, you don't get it? I'm just asking that because when I brought forward for everybody to have garbage collection way back in 2018 or whatever it was, doesn't matter. I'm a house number, but the house I can touch beside me is a 911 number. So I was getting garbage and recycling and they were getting nothing. So I'm just wondering exactly how that works with the toter carts, who gets them and who doesn't.
Thank you for your question. When I spoke with Waste Connections, they're willing to give everyone a toter cart. So originally, when we put the contract out, we just requested urban areas. But as conversations went on after the RFP went out, Waste Connections was really hoping to extend it to the entire community. So that's not a concern in my mind, that they will reach out with the entire community and get toter carts to them. For the previous concerns we had with the Waste Connections, of a lot of the issues were timing when the bags got to the road and they weren't getting picked up. In RFP, we clearly state that any change in route timing, like in the end schedule, that will need to be inform the municipality. And I've already had conversations with them after confirming with them with the toter carts and urban, that they will stick to the scheduled routes and the scheduled flow of the routes. I think that's going to cause a lot of positive improvement in the garbage collection. There will always be issues with garbage collection, no matter what community you go to. It's how we address them. And currently we have municipalities residents call us when they have problems. And in the contract, if their garbage is not picked up, then Waste Connections will go and pick it up within a 24-hour window. So that's how we plan to address that. And hopefully this will limit the amount of calls we get moving forward.
And then the lifespan of Southwold, do we know what that is?
Oh, yeah. The last time I spoke with the City of Toronto Southwold garbage dump, they had about approximately 10 years capacity, but looking into different options they had. So that's always a concern, because that's an item out of our control when it comes to garbage life cycles in Ontario.
Right. Okay, thank you. I appreciate your time and your report.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further questions? Seeing none, could I have the recommendation, please?
The recommendation is that West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from D. Sharon, Manager of Infrastructure and Development, regarding 2026 garbage collection service, and that West Elgin Council authorizes acceptance of the RFP submission from Waste Connections at a yearly price of $413,188.92, plus applicable taxes, and authorizes entering into a contract for a term of 7 years with 2 optional 1-year extensions, including annual CPI increases. And that West Elgin Council authorizes the acceptance of the provisional for toter carts for the residents in the communities of Rodney and West Lorne.
Move it, please. Yes.
Just based on Dave's presentation, toter carts for the residents of Rodney, West Lorne, and the rural areas.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Made that clear. Move it, please.
I just need that as a
Oh,
motion.
do you want to do that again?
I need that as a motion to amend first.
A motion to amend?
So that was,
Okay.
thank you,
Councillor Sousa, seconded.
thank you.
All in favour? That's carried.
The amended motion is that West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from D. Sharon, Manager of Infrastructure and Development, regarding 2026 garbage collection service, and that West Elgin Council authorizes acceptance of the RFP submission from Waste Connections at a yearly price of $413,188.92, plus applicable taxes, and authorizes entering into a contract for a term of 7 years with 2 optional 1-year extensions, including annual CPI increases. And that West Elgin Council authorizes the acceptance of the provisional for toter carts for the residents in the communities of Rodney and West Lorne and rural areas.
Okay, now we'll move, please.
So moved.
Councillor Denning, seconded. Councillor Sousa, all in favour? That's carried. Okay, so we go to 7.1.2, crosswalks. David, over to you again, please.
Thank you. We've discussed crosswalks a couple times now. Hopefully this will be the last one until we get the results from this study. I spoke with the county about possible locations and worked with and reviewed the sites myself to determine what the recommendation we're going to move forward with is. But I looked at 3 sites through West Lorne. I looked at Monroe and Graham across from the school and across from the arena. And after looking at that, I determined that we're probably going to get the best value of a study to be at Monroe and Graham and the train tracks. I spoke with Peter at the county. He informed me that they can do both the crosswalk for the rail and at Monroe itself together as one count. So we have a better idea of exactly how many people are crossing, because it's essentially the same spot where people are crossing. Where down Graham at the school and in the arena, it was there was too many variables where people could cross in different spots. So that's where my recommendation would be, to be able to do that. Looking to move this forward as quickly as possible. We're wanting to do this between June 1st and June 15th this year, so that we get it while school's still in session. So we have an idea of all the counts of the people that are around walking in this time of year. It's the most ideal time to do it. And this is why I was trying to rush this through and get this done. Sorry for the delay, by the way. If anybody has any questions about that, I think we've gone over all the other stuff in the interview and in the previous council. But yeah, thank you.
Any questions? Councillor Sousa.
Through the chair, Dave, thank you for that. Was Maine and Graham discussed at all with Peter?
Yes, we looked at Maine and Graham. If we were looking to do a crosswalk though, there's no real good spot to do it at Maine and Graham. We'd have to be like 100 to 200 meters away from the intersection to put a crosswalk in there. I am looking at different options for increased line painting moving forward though. That's our big concern with that is, I'm going to look at different options, whether we hire out a firm to do the layout of it, because it is a pretty significant intersection where a lot of moments happen, and or whether we get the TAC manual out and lay it out ourselves. That might be a challenge just for timing wise. So we wouldn't be able to get it done as quickly if we went down that road.
David, thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, could I have the recommendation, please?
The recommendation is that West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from D. Sharon, Manager of Infrastructure and Development, regarding potential pedestrian crossing study locations on Graham Road. And further, that council recommends proceeding with a pedestrian crossing warrant study at the intersection of Graham Road and Monroe Street, including the pedestrian crossing area near the former railway tracks.
Move it, please. Councillor Denny, seconded. Councillor Statham, all in favour? That's carried. And the next one is the Municipal Partnership, Roots and Revival. Thank you, Philip. Terry, it's over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair. This one is a very quick report, straightforward. We've received a few of these requests lately for people, for groups that are not non-for-profit that have been receiving some funds. So in this one, the Roots and Revival Festival has received some funding through the Elgin St. Thomas Community Fund. So we, once again, are just going to be that middle person to receive the funds and ensure that the festival receives those funds accordingly. Any questions at all?
Any questions? The Deputy Mayor Tellier? No, she was just reaching out. It sounds straightforward to me.
Recommendation?
Yes, please.
The recommendation is that West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Terry Toshchuk, Manager of Community Services, Clerk, regarding a municipal partnership with the Roots and Revival Festival, and that the West Elgin Council approves a partnership between the municipality of West Elgin and the Roots and Revival Festival Committee, whereby the municipality will receive and direct the funding approved from the Elgin St. Thomas Community Fund and any other potential funding received for the 2026 festival.
Move it, please. Councillor Statham, seconded. Councillor Denning, all in favour? That's carried. Thank you. That takes us to 7.3, Chief Administration Officer, Old Town Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that there was a request by council for an amendment to the agenda, and so the reading of submission by.
Like me to go now? May 28th, 2026, Clerk and members of Council, Municipality of West Elgin. Dear Clerk and members of Council, regarding Council Meeting Agenda Item 7.3.1, Old Town Hall. Please accept this letter as a formal request that it be circulated to Council and read into the record on my behalf. I am opposed to the recommendation to draw $200,000 from the Tax Stabilization Reserve for the Old Town Hall project without a clear explanation of how the full project will be funded. Residents deserve a straightforward accounting of the total cost, the reserve funds available, and the plan to pay for the balance of the project before tax stabilization money is used for design and estimating work. This has not been clearly presented. The concern is heightened by the fact that this matter is being addressed at the last minute as timelines expire, and by prior public discussion at council meetings, recognizing that West Elgin has other important capital and infrastructure needs requiring attention. West Elgin's own budget and capital planning documents show that municipal funds must be prioritized carefully across many competing needs. Before any further funds are approved, Council should clearly answer the following. Where are the reserve funds for the rest of the project? What is the full project cost, including all related expenses with contingency for overages? How will the municipality fund the balance without creating future tax or borrowing pressure? Why is this being brought forward now without a complete funding plan? The residents of West Elgin deserve a clear understanding of how this project will be fully funded before public tax stabilization money is spent on a project budget number. I respectfully ask council to defer this expenditure until a complete and transparent financing plan is provided publicly. Sincerely, Angela Cammert.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At our last council meeting, last committee of the whole, I did bring the subject forward to council and expressed some of the concerns we have staff have. However, council, when we stepped away from that, had left me with 3 questions that I think you were looking for. How can we provide truer cost figures for this project? How can we investigate the risk of proceeding and not finishing the project? And could I investigate the opportunity to sell the facility if the project exceeds funding expectations? So in the body of the report, I did answer that. But for council and for community's awareness, I will return to these questions a little later on. So for council's awareness, in 2019, the municipality of West Elgin submitted a grant application for the Investing Canada Infrastructure Program for the rehabilitation or for the renovation of the Old Town Hall in Rodney. The details of that grant are within the body of your report, specifying what works we were looking to complete. West Elgin was successful in that grant, receiving an option to receive, right? We do not have the money in our accounts as of yet, so we have access to funding. It was $1,845,166, and that equates to 77% of the total project's cost. Therefore, the municipality would be responsible to contribute, at the very least, $671,083 or $84. That brings the total budget for this project to $2,516,215. This grant was received, or notification of this grant, and it was approved by council in 2019 and contracts were signed. However, COVID occurred, and like many contracts across municipalities and across agencies, this was a project that was deferred or delayed. And when I arrived in the beginning of 2026, this was a question that council still had not moved forward with. How are we going to address the Old Town Hall? Dave and I have picked up this file since we have started with the municipality. At that time, all we had are really conceptual ideas and plans in place. We were asked to go and quote this project so you had a better sense of what would be the realistic cost of the project. Council, I would mind you, there was a larger concern during COVID and immediately post-COVID when the cost of inflation and when supply chain issues were driving up the cost of goods. Since that time, we've seen a reduction to maybe more reasonable, whatever your term of reasonable is, in costing. However, there's still going to be a cost for this facility. So included in this report, we were able to work with streets to identify, but based on conceptuals, and that we want to make sure council is aware, these are conceptuals. This will need to go to design plan to have much more granular look at the actual build out of the design. And then it would go to tender. And at tender is when you would know what the true cost of this project would be. But if we were to estimate it based on the information we have today, we are sitting at $1,886,192. Those are estimates. The fear of myself and of your manager of infrastructure is this is an old facility. And so we don't know what we don't know. And so our recommendation, if we were to proceed, is that we would want to make sure that there was a healthier contingency than the typical 10%. Just in case, once we start opening up walls, things can happen. But with that said, council, we will not know what the real truer cost of this is until we go to a design plan. Your design plans are typically about 10% of your project costs. So with this as being a $2 million, we do see that project plans could reach up to $200,000. At the time that this project was agreed upon by this municipality, different council, but this municipality, what I haven't observed in sort of looking through the information was that financial plan. How is the municipality going to contribute to its costs? We do see that there is a reserve and there's $20,000 in that reserve, but that does not meet the needs of the design plan or the needs of the project as a whole. And so, council, I have provided you some options. One, if you wish to move to a design plan, we could pull the money from your rate stabilization reserve. There is a risk in that because that reserve really should be one-time emergencies. So I guess council would need to understand if this is an emergency or how you would deem the use of it. And then moving forward, this would be designed, it would go to tender. And when it comes back from tender, council then would have the truer costs minus or plus any contingencies, I guess, that could occur in the build. At that time, council would then have to decide if it really wanted to move forward with the project. If that were the case within this budget, our recommendation as part of the recommendations report is please direct myself and the treasurer to go and investigate debt options. So we can provide you with your options for paying for this project. There's funding in reserves, but yet again, reserves should be around emergencies as opposed to dipping into for a project by project basis. This municipality does have some reserves. However, I would not say that you are in healthy state as far as how much reserves you have saved for the general cost of your operations. Questions were also asked of what is the risk if we were to proceed and not finish this project? I did provide you with the contract. If we were not to finish this project, then the funder would determine, have we completed enough? So was there a significant amount of the project completed enough for them to contribute their portion? If it's deemed not, then we would be responsible for any of the cost up to returning any of the funds because we did not meet our obligations. Then the question was, if we were to proceed into this project and if it exceeded our expectations for costing, if we were to sell, were we able to do that? Well, the terms of the contract do state that we need to maintain ownership of that facility for at least 5 years before we can sell. And so my assumption would be that you would need to return the funds in order to break yourself from the contract to sell it. So at this moment in time, council, before you is, if you wish to proceed to the design phase, then we will need to come forward with the costing for that design. And we say that risk would be up to $200,000. If design plans were to exceed that amount, I certainly would come back to this council to say those plans are more than we anticipated. That is the question before you today. I'm just laying out the additional information so you understand that there's a risk that if you go to design and you choose to not proceed with the plan, then you've spent $200,000 on a design that we're not going to move forward with. The questions within the information we received from our community member, we have not seen a financial plan that was put into place. If council wishes us to do that, we could return with that. Why is this last minute? It's because the end of this contract is in March 2027, and we do need to reach out to the funding body and give council's direction if it wishes to proceed and provide them with an updated plan to see if there's an extension of those funds, or we need to let them know at this moment in time the municipality does not have or wishes to take the risk for the resources required to proceed. So at that, Mr. Mayor, I think I'll just answer any questions council may have.
Thank you. I'm just going to say a couple of words anyway, first. Can we use that funds just to make the place safe? Because nobody's got a plan of exactly what they want doing inside that town hall. How many rooms? How many washrooms? How many sets of stairs? Is there going to be a lift? I mean, it's just open. I mean, you could spend a little bit, you could spend millions. Until you actually know what you're going to do with the town hall, how can you get a proper price?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, the details of the grant do specify the information. It was the updating of the library. It was the installation of a lift. It was the installation of a community kitchen and a community room. So there were some general directions around it. That's what the funding needs to go towards. Could we use that funds to just clean it up? We can't use these funds. These funds have to be specific for this project. And in order to access all of these funds, we have to do what we said we were going to do. So we do not have the funds in our bank as of yet. We have to show our plan. And from the plan, they typically will send a portion of the funds to Upstart. But if we're going to divert from this, we would not be able to access those resources.
Okay, further questions? Councillor Sousa, please.
Through the chair, if we were to take this 200,000 and we tender it, and then we see the cost, and we're not happy with the cost, from there, could we not sell the facility and reimburse that 200,000?
If I may, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
There are many possibilities and solutions. If council wished to do the design and then got to tendering and were not satisfied or did not wish to proceed for whatever reason, your risk is you've spent your $200,000. Certainly then council then can make a decision on how, if they wish to declare that surplus property and proceed to disposal. And if at the direction of that council, because I'm going to assume it will be the next council, or this could still be this council. The council could direct us how they wish to use those funds. And so if you wanted to offset the cost, the assumption would be, would we get at least $200,000 in the sale of the property? That's not a question I can answer at this moment in time. I've not seen an assessment of the property price.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Statham, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, a lot to unpack here. That was a long report. It was great. I think the first thing I would say is that $200,000 to me is justified if it materially reduces the risk of making a multi-million-dollar mistake down the road. That's, ultimately the way I feel about it. I think the one thing that we're missing here is the old town hall is quite likely a liability no matter how we slice this. Heritage buildings don't become free if we ignore them. And we can sell that building, we can, but it still doesn't reduce the cost. There's a liability one way or the other here. I think the real question is not whether we're going to spend money versus spend nothing. I think the question here is, what is the best long-term option that gives us the most public value per dollar that we spend, is the way that I'm looking at this. I think Angela's letter, asks some responsible questions, and I think some of those questions deserve consideration. I think some of the ones that, affect me the most, and I think, are most important are things like, what is the long-term plan for that space? This is potentially worthwhile, and I think that there is definitely value here. But what's a realistic 10 to 20 year operating model? What are we going to do with this facility over 10 to 20 years? If we're going to utilize it and we're going to get revenue from it and it's going to benefit the community, great. Then let's spend the $200,000. Let's make sure we're not making a multi-million-dollar mistake, and let's find out if that's actually the case. If we don't have a 10 to 20 year operating model, then no, I don't want to spend $200,000 because we're just throwing money at an idea, a pie in the sky concept. Regarding that $200,000 specifically, I would like to know what deliverables that we're going to receive as a result of spending that money. Specific deliverables, not just, we're going to have a plan. I'd like to know exactly what that's going to entail. And within that $200K, can we build in some financial planning for the use of the facility long term and to see what we're going to actually do with it? That's all I got for now.
If I may, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So my understanding is, because this is a art and cultural grant, then the direction of the use of that facility, at least in the short term, needs to be towards art and culture. The original intention was to move the Rodney Library into the main area of the space and then potentially also showcase local history within that. That is much of a business plan as that I have seen. I know there was the concepts of the utilization of the upper space for community events. I have not seen, and that's not to say it doesn't exist, it's just there's been a transfer of staffing, and so finding information. I have not seen a business plan as to what is the potential earnings, because at this moment in time, we don't have a defined what would we do with it. We would be receiving monthly rent from the Essex Elgin County Library System, based on our agreements that we have with them. However, as I also noted within this report, at the time, there was a letter that was submitted by the Elgin County CAO, not necessarily from the library group, but that was in 2019. Councils have changed. What we would also need to do is go back to Elgin County and receive a commitment from County Council that they would be prepared in 2027 or 2028, whenever this project would be finalized, to move their facilities. Of course, that comes with additional costs to them in their operational costs, their equipment costs, be it that it would be a larger space, they'd be paying a larger rent. So we would have to negotiate whether they're willing to do that or not, based on what they would assess needs for the size of the community. So at this moment in time, it is just the library that we have. We have some limitations as to the use of the space because of the terms of the grant.
If I may,
Yes.
just a quick follow-up. Thank you, Robin. That's very helpful.
Another question for you.
Just a quick follow-up on that. So in terms of alternative uses or, redevelopment models, we haven't really considered any of that at this point. It's just the library that we're sort of looking at. Is that's fair to say? I guess, but the reason I'm asking the question is if we're looking at long-term operating forecasts and what we're going to do with this building, long-term, and we're looking at life cycle, utility costs, maintenance, all that kind of stuff, it would be nice to have a general sense of where we're going with this. And, maybe it's utilizing the top of the building for residential units. Maybe there's an alternative funding model that we can investigate. I think those are some questions that it would be responsible for us to put out there and have answered before we invest a lot of money. And I think if that can be included in that $200,000, again, that was the point that I was getting at, is if we're spending $200,000 now to avoid a large mistake down the road, I think we can justify spending that money.
The business plan would be separate from a design plan. Your design plan would be going back to engineers, and then we would be getting into the specifics of how we would be designing the building. And so that would be getting into all of the engineering components. Those design plans then are used to tender, of which then we would get bids back in order to do the build component. That $200K would not be moving into sort of the business end of it. Mr. Mayor, I do hear the councillor's requests. That is something that you could ask us continue to proceed to investigate. However, where we are today is that the purpose of the building has some parameters as defined by this grant. So for at least 5 years, you would be within the parameters of arts and culture. What you did with the facility after 5 years would be something that council then may consider. But I don't think we'd be limited in, could we turn it into residential? I don't think that fits in within the terms of this grant. Could we turn it into office space? I'm not sure it fits in with the terms of this grant.
Okay, I guess I'll just wrap up my point of view. I think at this point, operating costs that we're looking at long-term are fairly vague. The usage of the building, the assumptions that we're making about the usage of the building are optimistic at best. I'm not sure that we really have firm partnership commitments from the library. From what you said, that was.
We would have to be sure that they would be prepared, and that's where I'm saying to council, direct me to go and make sure we're getting all of this I can do. If you wish to move to design, we can work on all of this while the designs are going on. You risk your spend of $200K. If you wish us to proceed with all of that information, I then also go back to the funder to see how much time we can extend
Okay.
without firm plans.
Yeah, I think this, it seems to me like this is a due diligence phase that we're engaged in at this point. But I would personally like to postpone spending $200,000 until we have a little bit more information on, I know timelines are tight. I get it. I just don't want to, I just don't want to make a knee-jerk decision that costs taxpayers $200,000. If we don't have some more of that information, you know, if we can find serious external funding and a good operating plan, then I think we're in good shape. Again, I don't want to beat a dead horse.
I
I'll
personally
leave it
would
there.
echo what you just said.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Tellier, please.
Thank you, and through the chair, thank you for everybody's thoughts and input there, and thank you for your report, CAO Greeno. On May 3rd, 2024, we held a town hall at our rec center, and we had the conceptual drawings all there. I wouldn't have called them conceptual, but whatever, all there, and people wanted to go ahead with this. We have no historic buildings in our area. Churches, our old jail, and this town hall. We have $131 billion, this is from the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, of arts and culture that can come into communities, and I would like a part of that for our community. I don't understand when the mayor and other people of council say we don't have idea what we're doing with the building. The health center has said over and over again, if you build the building, we will come. We will come and have offices there, just like they do in Dutton Dunwich. They are officed and housed in Dutton Dunwich's building, the medical building. They can't commit ahead of time until they see the space and what it would look like. Well, we can't see the space and what it would look like unless we go ahead with the drawings and see what's going on there. The dream was to have all of our heritage, as you walked in on either side, and, you know, Scottish, Hungarian, any heritage we have, Indigenous, and showcase that, as well as the steam engine that we have to be showcased. Wonderful person in our community today said, or sorry, our fire truck, when a person in our community today said, what about the steam engine that could be gifted to us? That could be showcased as well. To say that they were not having an idea what's going on is frankly a little insulting, because I'm the chair and I've been asking since May 13th, 2024 to have this put on the agenda over and over and over again. And I really feel that staff just don't want to deal with this project. We had ideas that we really had input, and the committee had ideas to run this facility as a much like Covenant Market, with its own entity. Municipality owns it, but we have our own board, our own everything. You know, might hold funds as we get grants and different things. There's just a lot that could go on, and we should be looking at this as an investment to become a destination, as people have become a destination to fish in our beaches, like to fish in our waters, to come to our beaches, and to be part of Elgin County. This is bigger than West Elgin. This is people from Elgin and people from further than that will be coming to make this and to see it. The upstairs was to have a cooking kitchen, because that's something that's been asked for since the Legion in Rodney is no longer. There are many plans, so it's really insulting when someone says we don't have a plan and we don't know what we're doing. The plans have been there all along since we put everything together. We got the funds. My question is, does it have to come from there, this 200,000, or a building fund? Because we put money into buildings all the time, different things going on, and I'm wondering if it could come from a different spot on our tax line at all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This would be, and I would look towards our treasurer, but this would be the reserve that would have healthy enough funds. Any other reserve would be dedicated to other projects and other capital plans. We do have a building fund. Those funds within the last year were directed towards our build at West Lorne.
Yes.
If I may ask
Councillor
another
Denny.
question.
Yeah, follow up.
Okay, and I'm just wondering exactly, so the Yeah, I've lost it now. Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead.
Councillor Denny.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, staff and fellow councillors for the comments. One of the reasons why this project has been delayed for so long is because of the vastness and the unknown of the cost of taking this old building and making it into a fully functional heritage center. Because of the hard work of staff, we now have a stepping stone that we can responsibly consider, which is $200,000 to bring this thing to planning, shore this building up, and do our part to ensure that this very important piece of our heritage continues to remain on Furnival Road. It doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to remain in the ownership of West Elgin if 5 years down the road, when our obligations to the grant have expired, that we need to continue to fund this thing and make it into an albatross if it's not financially stable. It is then something that a future council can consider, as Robin mentioned, declaring surplus and reclaiming that money that we're talking about now, $200,000, and then getting that and then some back in commercial tax rate. So I feel like we finally have the thing that we've been waiting for, which is that clear stepping stone instead of us as a council having to try to climb up 12 stairs at once. I think that we've got a good option here, and it's a responsible option.
Yes, Councillor Sousa.
Through the chair, if we were to go through with this, I would really like to see more committee meetings take place, the committee of council, because I realize there's probably other grant opportunities out there. And I'd like to see what that committee can do. Let's not give up on the committee. Let's have more meetings, like maybe 3 or 4 meetings in a year would be really, really nice. Thank you.
Yes, please.
If I may, council, I recognize there are a lot of concepts of what this committee, and please, I'm not wanting to take sides. I just want to make sure that there's some understanding. The grant is specific, right? The grant is specific to what the build, there was a concept, and Councillor Tellier, the difference between a conceptual plan and an engineered plan is it gets into the minutia of the doors and the toilets and the where we're putting the lights and the electrical. That's a design plan. The conceptual is just the basic structure. And so we don't have a design plan to actually tender. It's been the challenge for us to get estimated costings for this project because it's conceptual. We need the minutia to be able to give you details. The grant is specific as to what we are to build and what we are to use the money towards. And then the grant is specific for the use of the facility for at least 5 years. So the committee would have to work within that realm. We would continue to work towards what the grant is directing us, the design of the grant. But then the function of the building, the committee could have conversations within those parameters.
Yes, Councillor.
Yes,
Deputy
through
Mayor.
the chair. Thank you so much for that, CAO Greenall. Yes, I understand the difference between the two. It was what I was taking offense to is people saying, well, what are we doing with the building? We wouldn't have, like the conceptual drawings, we wouldn't have put those forward and gotten a grant if we didn't know had an idea what we wanted to do with the building. So that's where maybe my language was off. So thank you for that. Yeah, just it's a historic building. It anchors our community. We identify with them, and we are every year when we look at our tax base and we look what's going on and we look at what we have to offer our community, and it's growing so much. And I really, really look at that. And I also look and think we are brought in every year to look at how we're functioning as a municipality. And we're always told, you're doing great. You don't have barely any debt. Wonderful. Kudos to you, West Elgin. But can we not look at having a bit of debt to get where we need to be, to make that landmark what it is and where we need to go to? I'm just looking at that as well. If, sometimes you need to go into debt to get a car to get to work. Sometimes you need to have that little bit of an edge to get to where you need to be. So that's just a thought that I had there as well. So it's just, you're right, though. We need to do something exactly for due diligence for making it safe as well. And looking towards that.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Sather, one more.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Last one, Teresa, I absolutely agree with you. I think this could be an anchor for our community. Multi-use civic buildings have been shown in small municipalities to have a great deal of benefit. And I think that this definitely has the potential to work as long as we are responsible with planning this out. I think the whole concept of build it and people will come, I think that is dangerous. And I think that we could mire ourselves and get burned when we're looking at the long-term costs of this investment. I mean, operating costs alone, I think are going to be more than our construction costs. I mean, we have to think about annual staffing, HVAC, utilities, life cycle costs, insurance, custodial costs. Those are costs that could burn the municipality long term, not just in the short term. I mean, we're arguing about spending $200,000, but maintenance of this building long term is going to cost the municipality money. I just want to make sure that, and again, I don't want to make it sound like I don't want to do this. I think it would be great. I think a multi-use civic hub in Rodney could definitely be an anchor for the community. I think that there is a lot of positives there, but I'm also concerned about the costs. And I think that Angela, made a good point about usage. How much is the library gonna pay us? Are they actually going to invest? Is that a soft commitment or is that a hard commitment? The health center, I think that's great. Teresa, it'd be perfect if the health center could come in there and utilize some space in there and help cover some of the costs. But again, is that a soft commitment or a hard commitment? And I think we need to, before we get into this, I think that we should have some answers to some of those questions. Not firm necessarily, but at least a little bit more analysis than what we have in front of us at the moment. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Telly, sorry.
Yeah, thank you through the chair, and thank you for that for Councillor Statham. So to just address how it would run, so the committee came up with, we would run it like Covenant Market. So it would run, we'd have our own funds for custodial, most things, but it would be held by municipality, run by a totally different entity. That's the best way I can describe it in layman's terms, but that's what the committee had hoped for when and if this ever came to realization. So that's what we were looking at. And there's a lot of cultural grants that can be partnered with this. I looked into the Canada Cultural Spaces grant, matches half. A resident let me know about an accessibility grant for an elevator and the AOD compliance, and there's other ones that lists and lists people have been sending to me. So there are opportunities, but once again, we need to look at what we're looking at today.
Thank you. Councillor Sousa, okay, Councillor Denny.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to sort of maybe put a pin in my previous comment, my concern at this point is that if we say no to this, if we politely decline the grant and just say, oh, well, it is a bridge too far, the costs are unknown, this may very well be the death sentence of this building. I think that moving forward, even with the uncertainty of a lack of a business plan and a lack of commitment, is our way to ensure that that building remains a physical presence. Because I don't know if we defer this anymore and then get to the point where we are no longer able to take advantage of the grant, that even if we sold this building for $1, that a private investor would be able to justify the engineering costs of bringing this building back up to code. So I do think that, again, we have the opportunity to make sure that this conversation can still happen 3, 4, 5 years from now by making this small decision now to commit $200,000 and continue to just move ourselves down this road. And 5 years from now, 6 years from now, if the business plan that we do come up with is not providing a justifiable return on investments, future council can decide if it's time to make a different decision and change tax. So I feel very comfortable with this step, even though we do not know all the pieces of the puzzle are not all in place, but we are doing our part to make sure that that red brick building 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now is still going to be a part of Rodney.
Yeah, so I agree totally. Every year it stands there, it deteriorates. And that's what happens. An empty building deteriorates a lot faster than one that's being lived in. And I also know that probably the roof needs looking at now. And when you get things like that, things go beyond repair. So, Councillor Sousa, please.
Through you, the chair, I mean, I agree, and I think it's now or never. If you wanna go for it, I think we should go for it. Like I said, I don't want us to leave out the Old Town Rodney Hall Committee. That group, they're gonna work hard, they can do a great job finding grants out there. Maybe grants can work with this grant, come up with a game plan. What do we wanna do with that second floor? What are we gonna do with that stage? Let's have a better game plan. Let's come up with some ideas, and then I'd be okay with proceeding with this. As long as we don't leave that committee out, let's have more meetings, let's have a game plan, let's fight together. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Statham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I'm in agreement. I think I would be comfortable moving forward with this. I have two asks from staff if we're going to proceed, if we're going to go down this route. The one is that we take a serious look at a realistic operating plan for long term, that we shore up some of the participation from partners, from the county, from the health center. And we really look at what the utilization potential of that building is. Before we go the $200,000 at the beginning of what I was saying, I was saying if that is going to prevent us from making a multi-million-dollar mistake, then let's do it. But I want to see that realistic operating plan, and I want to see the numbers before we go any further than that. I want to see what we're going to do with that building. The other ask from council and staff is that we involve the community in these decisions. I think that having some sort of town hall meeting where we can engage the community so that we're all making the decisions together, not just the group that's sitting around the table, I think that would be something that'd be important to me.
Mr. Mayor, if I can be specific, council, the grant is specific to the build out of the.
I understand what the grant is for.
I just want to make sure that that's clear, because when you're asking to go back to community to ask what to do, that question has been answered. What we were doing in the building for this grant has clearly been answered, right? It's the development of the library, it's the development of a community space, it's a development of a elevator. So we have to proceed with that. Certainly, if council gives direction, we can look at future use or additional uses if need be.
Deputy Mayor Tellier.
Through the chair, that's what I was just going to actually say. Thank you, CEO Greenall. And also, once again, May 13th, 2024, we had a town hall in our rec center where everyone showed up that could. And their voices were loudly heard. They would like to continue in any possible way, even many of them with their tax base for this project. So we've heard from people. Asking people over and over again is just going to drive them nuts, but we have heard from the public 2 years ago.
Thank you. Further questions? Yes, please.
The recommendation is that West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from R. Greenall, CAO, titled Old Town Hall Project Confirmation, and that West Elgin Council directs staff to complete a final design plan at a cost not to exceed $200,000 and to proceed to tender the project to return final project costings for council approval. And that West Elgin Council directs staff to immediately fund the cost of the design plans through the rate stabilization reserve. And that West Elgin Council directs staff to explore borrowing options, debt, to support the municipality's funding responsibilities, and that the municipality draft a report to the Elgin County Library and to the County of Elgin requesting their commitment to support the project.
Madam Clerk, can we have a recorded vote on this, please?
Yes. I need a mover and seconder first.
A mover and seconder. Councillor Sousa, seconded. Councillor Denny, all in favour?
Just one moment.
Oh,
Councillor
sorry.
Statham has called for a recorded vote.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor Tellier,
Yes.
Councillor Statham,
Yes.
Mayor Leatham,
Yes.
Councillor Sousa,
Yes.
and Councillor Denning.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so we go on to 7.3.2. Improvement Plan, CIP summary. Who's that one?
It's me, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Council, before you is the Community Improvement Plan. Local municipalities of the County of Elgin work with the county for the development of a community improvement plan. It has been that way for the last 10 years. This is a update to that community program. Carolyn Cron did come to this council and gave a presentation and had a public meeting highlighting the various grants and opportunities of which our members can apply for. Many of them are looking at sort of tax breaks, or it's looking for grants for development of their businesses, so beautification. The reason why we need a CIP is within the Municipal Act, the municipality giving monies, loaning monies, or supporting businesses can be seen as gifting. And so a CIP clearly defines how we would support businesses. Defining that plan across our municipality. So unless council has any further questions, we do need an official motion from this council to accept that plan.
Questions? Could you read the resolution, please?
The recommendation is that bylaw number 33 of 2026 being a bylaw to designate community improvement project area be presented for enactment, and that bylaw number 19 of 2026 being a bylaw to adopt the 2026 Elgin Incentives Community Improvement Plan be presented for enactment.
Hey, mover please. Councillor Sousa. Seconded. Deputy Mayor Tellier. All in favour? That's carried. And we move on to 7.4. Corporate Services and Finance. 2026 draft budget. Emma?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, and sorry, Emma, council seated to the left of Emma is Dave Aristone. Dave has been assisting the municipality for the last several months while we were in absence of a treasurer. He was very instrumental in starting the development of this plan. And so I'm just wanting to make sure he's introduced and people understand why he's here. If he starts to speak and support Emma, because he was involved in it, he's here as a support. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much for what you've done. So Emma, it's over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay.
Okay. Tell me when to flip through.
Okay, thank you. Tonight I will be presenting the 2026 operating and capital budget overview for the municipality of West Elgin. As part of this, I will be walking through the overall financial position, key drivers behind the budget, and what this means for both council and residents. The 2026 budget has been built around 4 key objectives. First, maintaining our core municipal services such as roads, fire, and waste collection. Second, supporting community growth, recognizing that our municipality continues to evolve. Third, investing in infrastructure, which remains one of our most significant responsibilities. And finally, ensuring long-term financial sustainability so that we can continue delivering services both today and in the future. A brief overview under the Municipal Act, municipalities are required to prepare and adopt a balanced budget each year. The operating budget provides the resources necessary to deliver programs and services while also accounting for inflationary pressures. It's important to note that reserve balances shown in this budget are estimates and will be finalized following year-end adjustments, which I will be going into in further detail a little later on. So the 2026 draft budget proposes to raise approximately $4.72 million in municipal taxation. This represents a $312,519 increase over 2025, resulting in a 7.09% levy increase and a 6.56% municipal tax rate increase. The levy increase represents the total additional amount of money the municipality needs to raise from property taxes to fund its services and operations, and the municipal tax rate increase represents the change in the percentage that will be applied to properties. These differ based on the growth experienced by West Elgin that helps generate part of the levy increase without changes to tax rates, which we will discuss in further detail in a moment. The property taxes for 2026 will be calculated based on the assessed values from MPAC, which is Ontario's independent body that assesses property values for tax purposes. We will also take a look at the assessments in greater detail in the next few slides. So with this proposed budget, for an average residential property assessed at $200,000, this translates to an increase of roughly $108 per year, or about $9 per month. A helpful way to think about adjustments is that a 1% tax increase for West Elgin equals approximately $44,100 in revenue. This becomes important if council wishes to consider any reductions. This slide shows how our property assessment base has changed from 2025 to 2026. On this slide, you'll see figures for total assessment and weighted assessment. Total assessment is the full value of all properties in the municipality based on MPAC valuations. It represents the raw market data of properties and does not reflect how different property classes are taxed. This is where weighted assessment comes in. Weighted assessment adjusts the total assessment to reflect tax ratios set by Elgin County for 2026. Different property classes are taxed at different rates. For example, commercial and industrial properties are typically taxed at higher rates, and farms and managed forests are often taxed at reduced rates. Weighted assessment applies those tax ratios to give a taxable equivalent value. In summary, total assessment tells us how much property value exists, and weighted assessment tells us how much that value contributes to taxation, which is how much tax revenue the municipality can generate. The 2026 budget incorporates a 0.49% assessment growth, valued at approximately $20,000 of additional tax revenue. This increase in tax revenue is impacted by new homes, and existing ratepayers will not see an increase to their tax bill because of this assessment growth. As previously mentioned, this growth is the reason for the difference that we see in the 7.09% proposed levy increase, and that in between the 6.56 proposed tax rate increase shown on the previous slide. This graph shows how assessment is distributed across property classes. Residential and farm properties make up the majority of the tax base, and there are no major shifts in composition year over year. Next, we have a breakdown of tax revenue by class. So this revenue shows how tax revenue is generated across these same classes we just took a look at. So this distribution does align with the municipality's assessment base. This slide is a high-level overview of the breakdown of proposed residential tax bill, showing the impacts of the proposed 6.56% increase in the municipal tax rate and the associated county and education rates that we do not set. So as you can see, overall increase $108.32 annually, which equates to approximately $9 per month for an average assessment of $200,000 on this specifically is residential rates as well. So this chart is a bit more of a detailed breakdown of revenues. So the municipality receives grants to assist with both operating and capital requirements. As you can see, our largest source of revenue are grants. So our largest recurring grants are OSIF, the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, and OMPF, Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund. OSIF is a provincial grant intended to provide capital support to communities for rehabilitation and construction of core infrastructure. In 2026, this funding to be received will be $238,015, as well as the reserves accumulated from this grant over the years. We've also proposed to close the gap of funding for certain capital projects, which I will be touching on later. And next, OMPF is a provincial grant to help with general assistance municipalities. And this grant amount is $2,223,900 and is used to support general operations. The key takeaway here is that taxation, grants, and reserves remain our primary funding sources. Next, we have expenses. So this provides more detailed breakdown of the proposed activity per department. So as we can see, infrastructure remains our highest need, followed by utilities and various parks and rec expenses. So if we can go to the next slides, we will be able to see a breakdown of the revenue and expenditures in greater detail. So as we can see here, the grant OMPF of the $2.2 million and OSIF $238,000 are listed here, as well as our proposed levy that we would need to raise of $4.7 million, which preliminary equals a levy increase of 7.09% and rate increase of 6.56%. So the next slide, we will be able to see the departmental summaries. So included in these totals are actually, this is a more detailed breakdown of the activity per department, so not necessarily only the expenditures. Included in these totals are funding and revenues generated specific to department, such as licenses and permits and user fees and charges, which we wouldn't have seen on the previous slide because they relate only to certain departments. So you'll see that, the associated expenditures, and then also the transfers to and from reserves. So I wanted to make a note here that majority of capital projects that we have proposed and will be discussing a little later on are being funded mainly through reserves and therefore would not be reflected in these departmental totals, as if they are being funded through reserves, it would be an associated transfer from reserves. So those numbers would net out, which we will look at in greater detail. So I want to talk about one of the contributing factors for increased departmental spends. So a lot of this is due to rising external costs, largely outside of the municipality's control. Inflation affected materials and services and eased to 2.4% in late 2025. Although lower in some recent years, prices across most services remain higher before the pandemic. Other external cost increases come from fuel price increases and contracts that the municipality does not have a say over, such as police services. We are also experiencing a need for additional road maintenance, as well as equipment and facility upkeep to maintain service levels as we prepare for long-term asset replacement. Finally, as we look ahead to the future, we have proposed certain reserve transfers necessary for future obligations, such as landfill closure. Now we're going to take a look at the most significant departmental needs that are contributing to the proposed levy increase. The first department we will discuss is council. Council costs are projected to proposed to increase by approximately $23,000 compared to the 2025 budget. This increase reflects election-related costs. $40,000 total is being spent, but it's important to note that only $10,000 is being funded through the 2026 levy, as $30,000 of this is being funded by prior reserve transfers put away in prior years. So what is affecting the taxpayer in 2026 is proposed to be $10,000. Increased conference participation also is contributing to this increase, with a proportional increase in mileage and meals. Much of these costs have already been incurred so far in 2026. Finally, we have budgeted for an estimated $7,500 of IT equipment for new council. Anybody have any questions on this department? If not, I'll move on. The next department we will discuss is administration, which, as we saw in the departmental summaries before, it is one of our largest department spends. First, we will talk about wages and benefits. Wages actually saw a decrease of a little over $25,000 compared to the 2025 budget. This decrease is attributed to, first, there are a couple of increases, such as cost of living increase and step progression adjustment, and additional money needed for staff recruitment. But all of these above items are completely offset by a staff turnover that saw some salary continuance. Separate to wages and related costs, we have also included $15,000 for ergonomic improvements to improve staff well-being and productivity. We have also budgeted for the $15,000 allocated for this same purpose in 2025 that actually went unused to be brought from reserves and used as well in 2026. So in summary, again, only the $15,000 is affecting the levy this year, as another 15 hit the levy in 2025.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you.
if I may speak
Yes,
just for a moment. Council, we had put money aside for ergonomic assessment in 2025 due to other priorities, and then also due to direction of how to spend that money. My request is to utilize the money we did not spend and lump it together. It's challenging to decide whom goes first and whose priorities are more pressing. And so by combining the 2 years, it allows us to address all needs.
So we are still staying within the administration department category, but a subsection of this is asset management and software. So asset management costs, which are budgeted to be slightly lower due to significant work completed and accrued in 2025 on the asset management plan required by Ontario regulation. However, we do continue to invest in GIS services, regulatory compliance, and software systems. Finally, we have budgeted an increase in software costs of $10,000 necessary to provide the right staff members with the right tools to do their jobs, spanning 15 different licenses.
Yes. Yes. Councillor Statham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thank you. This is great. You're doing a great job. I love it. I just noticed as we got to the end of the administration section, I'm assuming you're going to get into fire. On the summary sheet for the departmental summaries, I noticed municipal buildings, and before we get too far
Yep.
down the road, I wanted to ask about that $74,000 variance or 75% for municipal buildings.
Definitely. I'm just going to pull up some more detail.
And I apologize, I just noticed that I thought that that would have been in the summary, and it went from council to administration to fire. And that was one of the questions I was gonna ask about, is about that variance, so.
Yes, so municipal buildings, the main driver of this, a little more than $74,000 is actually, so later on in the capital project section, I will be touching on different areas that we are spending. So within municipal building, we are completely depleting all of the reserves, which we'll also see in greater detail later. So part of this increase is really just a $75,000 transfer to reserve recommended at this time, to start building up that reserve over time again, as we know that this is an area where there are going to be additional costs for various projects in the years to come. So just thinking ahead and trying to be fiscally responsible and starting to build that reserve back up.
Perfect. So that $75,000 roughly is a transfer to reserves. Okay,
Yes.
that's fine. And sorry, I didn't realize you were gonna get to it. I didn't realize you were gonna get to it
Yeah.
later, so I apologize.
No, that's all good. Okay, so I will now speak on fire. So fire services continue to focus on long-term sustainability. I wanted to point out some key highlights within the fire budget. So a new tanker in 2026 was purchased fully funded by reserves. This is approximately $491,000. However, kind of the same thing we were just talking about with municipal buildings, how we have seen almost a complete depletion in that reserve. We are proposing an additional reserve contribution of $75,000 for future apparatus to build this reserve back up, as we know that there will be lots of need in the next couple of years, which I believe we will be coming back to council with more detail at a later time. But in any case, we do know that there is a need out there in the future. Additionally, we have budgeted a $30,000 transfer to reserves for communication equipment upgrades, which is consistent with prior needs. I now want to turn our attention to another reserve transfer that we had been seeing in the past. So in 2025, $100,000 was transferred from the tax rate stabilization reserve to help fund fire operations. Supporting operational services through this reserve is not a recommended practice, especially since this tax rate stabilization reserve is really meant to be available for unexpected cost increases, revenue shortfalls, or one-time expenditures. So as such, the current budget incorporates the total cost of fire operations to be fully supported through the levy. However, if council wishes to reduce the impact of completely transitioning this operational cost for fire services to the levy, they may consider a gradual approach and reduce the use of reserves over, for an example, 2 to 3 year period. I do have some numbers of implications of doing this. So transferring $50,000 from the tax rate stabilization reserve in 2026 would result in the levy and tax rate decreasing by 1.13%, and the 2025 amount of $100,000 would result in the levy decreasing by 2.27% from the proposed increases that I had already outlined. So this is all I had for fire, unless anyone had any questions. Okay, we will move on to police and roads. As we saw in the departmental summaries, police services are also one of our biggest spends. However, the municipality, we really don't have any control over this cost. The OPP caps billing increases at 11%. And from the communication we have had with them, they are projecting an 11% increase in this cost. So that is really the only place that this increase is coming from. Moving on to roads, we saw an overall increase of $145,196. This is mainly due to wage cost of living increases, as well as a municipal drain assessment that has been budgeted as $100,000, which is being fully supported by the levy. Next is landfill. So landfill costs are budgeted to increase by approximately $128,000. A couple key drivers here are higher collection and disposal costs that Dave alluded to earlier through his reports in our procurement of new contracts for waste collection. As well, we have environmental compliance requirements as the landfill nears the end of its operational life, resulting in an additional budgeted $20,000 of ground maintenance required. As well, we are planning for the long-term closure of this landfill, as there are going to be many costs associated with this, resulting in a budgeted $50,000 reserve transfer. Moving on to Parks and Recreation. Parks and Recreation budget includes several investments, one of them being $31,000 allocated to fencing at the baseball diamond, which is being budgeted to be funded by the levy and not by reserves. Next, we have $1,300 portable washrooms for Rodney Park, which is the new addition in 2026. We also budgeted transferring $50,000 to reserve to fund future multi-use pads. We transferred the same amount in 2025, which gives us $100,000 available for this project. Additional funds are also needed for master plans for Rodney and Miller Park at $40,000. And finally, with the arena, we have additional equipment maintenance required for the Zamboni at the arena, which does increase the budgeted equipment maintenance. Next, we have the Port Glasgow Trailer Park budget summary. So it should be noted that the trailer park is a user-funded department. Therefore, there is no effect on the levy or tax rate, but we thought it made sense to include it after our Parks and Rec budget summary. So trailer park revenues are increasing 11%, and this is directly in line with the approved rate increases in operating costs. And operating costs are rising due to wages and maintenance as well. So finally, the big project here is a new washroom facility funded completely through reserves, budgeted at $750,000. After this use of reserves, you will see in a later slide that the trailer park reserves, after that transfer from reserves of $750,000, is budgeted to sit at $472,062.
Yes, Councillor Sousa.
Through the chair, the capital expense for the bathroom. I recall it was around, let me just look at my notes here. I recall it was around 640 or 650 that we tendered it out. Why is it 750,000?
I would direct that to Dave Sharon.
Maybe for Dave?
That was just for the construction of the building. The engineering costs to design the building were not included in that cost as well. So we're sitting around $40,000 to $50,000 for engineering to get that building going. And I believe that number was before tax as well. And there was a couple different outstanding issues that happened along the way in construction that we added a couple dollar figures to as well that we'll bring forward as we finalize those numbers. So
Does the tax not get Do we get charged taxes as a municipality? I thought we get reimbursed for our taxes.
I can speak to that. So we do get a rebate for the majority of our tax, but we do have a non-refundable portion of our tax paid, which is 1.76% of the pre-tax figures. So in every single one of our expense items, what we pay is, or what we will not get back is obviously pre-HST and then 1.76 of the pre-HST cost.
Thank you, thank you.
Just to clarify, I think we need to look into, since the trailer park isn't a municipal, it's a for-profit venture. I think we do pay the full tax rate
okay.
on that. Because it's not like a municipally funded organization, so well, I think we'll double
I might-
check.
Interesting.
Excuse me, sorry. The trailer park is owned by the municipality. It is not a separate entity of the municipality. It is municipal service and it is municipally owned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for tax purposes, it's, okay, sorry, misspoke.
Thank you.
Just a question, just follow up. So Dave, do you charge HST on the annual fees you charge the campers or the?
I'd have to double check on that.
Because if you charge HST, then you get the full HST back. It's a taxable entity.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, yes, we do charge HST
Well, then
to
you
the
should
project.
you should get the whole 100% back of the 13%.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if you're filing it that way, but that is a taxable entity.
Deputy Mayor Tellier?
Yeah, thank you through the chair. Just wondering, since I'm hearing some discrepancies here, so we get something back solid that is indeed the case of how the taxes are working in the Port Glasgow Trailer Park.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I also wanted to emphasize that the Port Glasgow Trailer Park does not impact the levy whatsoever. It is a user-funded service. So the 750,000 capital washroom project we're currently talking about is a transfer from reserves, which would not impact the taxpayer.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, next slide.
Carry on, please.
Right, and finally, we have economic development. So $30,000 has been allocated for economic development initiatives. $60,000 previously transferred to reserves in previous years supports carryover projects from last year, such as marketing and branding. So next, I'm going to highlight capital projects, and also this slide breaks down their funding sources. So West Elgin continues to invest in capital improvements to sustain service delivery. This slide illustrates how proposed capital projects are to be funded. Infrastructure continues to be a major pressure as the majority of capital expenditures are being funded through reserves, creating a need to replenish the associated reserve levels. $125,000 worth of capital projects are being funded through the levy, which accounts for 2.8% of the levy increase. The largest capital projects include the fire tanker for $491,000, $450,000 worth of trucks for roads department, upgrades to the Rodney wastewater system for $2.6 million, which we will speak about in greater detail in the water and wastewater budget presentation. Playground equipment, $400,000. As we just spoke about, the new washroom for Trailer Park for $750,000. And finally, $470,000 for West Lorne Library renovations, which is the reason for the depletion in that municipal buildings reserve we spoke about before. And this $470,000 will leave enough room for approximately $25,000 for new furniture. Are there any questions about the proposed capital projects? Yep.
Other questions? Yes, Councillor Statham.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I think, again, Dave, sorry to put you on the spot. This is more of a question for you. The only one that really stuck out at me, all of this seems fairly reasonable. I wondered the sanitary manhole repair for 30 grand. Can you just explain to myself what that is?
Thanks, Ryan. Through you, Mayor. The sanitary manhole repair is through Aqua. We've identified some manholes that need to get repaired, and it's essentially concrete replacements. Aqua is going to be. We're working with Aqua that they've identified these problems, and they're going to fix those manholes up.
Okay, perfect. So that's like the concrete and the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Next slide. please.
Okay, thank you.
Next is a listing of our proposed transfers to reserves. There are a few different types of transfers present in this list. The first kind of transfer are departmental surpluses to these reserves. So these are actually reserve funds. So reserve funds are funded by user fees, not property taxes, and the funds collected must be set aside and used specifically for their purpose. For example, you will see surplus transfers for water and sewer. The next kind of transfers, relate to funding related to obligatory reserve funds, such as OSIF and federal gas tax. Obligatory reserves are money we are required by law to set aside and use only for a specific purpose and cannot be used for general operations. Therefore, we cannot use funds from the federal gas tax, for example, to help support general operations to help reduce our levy constraints. Finally, you will see transfers to reserves for future capital needs. For example, in the last slide, we saw how we funded $491,000 fire tanker through reserves. Because of this, the fire truck reserve was depleted to approximately $66,000, and we have therefore recommended to propose a reserve transfer of $75,000, which is included on this list.
Further questions? No?
Now I'm going to talk briefly about interest reserve allocations. So further to our discussion on the previous slide, reserve funds and obligatory reserves require that interest be allocated to them. I have projected the interest that will be earned on each of these reserved based on the projected average balance in the reserve over the year, and then applied the appropriate projected interest rate earned across all of our investments. So as we can see, the interest allocated projected to the reserve funds and obligatory reserves equals about $100,000. But then you will see we do have a line item in miscellaneous revenue that supports just general operations. That is budgeted to be $250,000. So that $250,000 line does not represent the only interest that we are budgeted to earn in 2026. It's actually the 250 plus the 100,000. It's just the 100,000 is a direct increase to certain reserves as we are required to do.
Yes, Councillor Statham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I just wanted to say thank you for clarifying this, because this was a sticking point that I had last year where I really could not wrap my head around where the interest was going and how it was being applied. And it's clear to me that that was heard. So just to be clear, we have the obligatory funds where the interest is directed back into that fund by law. We have to do that.
Yes.
And then the remaining $250,000 is the projected interest that is separate from the obligatory reserves. And when you combine those together, that's the total amount of interest. Very clear. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for doing that. I will not grill you like last year. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Denny.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair. Emma, thank you so much. This is something that'll likely come up at the next arena board meeting, but you've explained it very well. So for instance, community members have been asking about how much interest the Kraft Hockeyville money has been incurring. So at the next arena meeting, I'm expecting that's when it'll come up. You'll be able to present to staff what that number is so that we could share that with the community.
Yes, it just, right now, we're not allocating that interest to that reserve since it's not an obligatory reserve or a reserve fund. So I believe we can get direction from council to specifically allocate interest, but that's not something that has been done at this time. And if you wanna.
Yeah, I guess there's a question, I'm sorry, I guess there's a question, this reserve was established from a grant or and then council itself put some money into it. So the question is, whose reserve is it? Is it council's reserve or is it somehow attached to the recreation committee? I don't know how to answer that because I don't have the.
And I don't think it needs to be answered right now. I know that
Yeah.
we'll be discussing it in the arena board.
But if it's not required to put interest, you don't have to do it, but council can decide to give it interest if it wants. That's well within their powers to do that. But that's something you'd have to look at.
Okay, I'm sure that's, if that happens, that'll be a recommendation that the arena board committee can make back up to council at a later time.
Thank you.
Next slide, please. So now bringing this all together, we have our estimated reserve schedule. This slide estimates the reserve balances at the end of 2026 using the information that we have reviewed on the past few slides, being the reserve transfers in and out, as well as the interest allocations. So you'll see the total of transfers in includes the interest allocation as we are transferring that into the reserve, plus that listing of reserve transfers in that we already went over. It's also important to note that since we are still in the midst of completing the 2025 year-end audit, these reserve balances are subject to change. One of the matters we will need to bring back to council is there is a surplus of $321,666 from 2024, and there is a preliminary deficit in 2025 of $138,403. For a combined estimated total of $183,263 of surplus that will need to get allocated to a reserve. We will return to council when we have final numbers, and we do anticipate there's still to be surplus across both years, even after audited adjustments. Staff is working diligently to work with the auditors to get the audit for 2025 year end completed. So out of the full tax bill residents will receive, this is just a chart looking at the breakdown of how their tax dollars get spent. About 45% will remain with the municipality. Since we are a lower tier municipality, 43% goes to the county and 12% goes to education. So these percentages are in line with the rates seen earlier in the presentation. And finally, we do have some comparisons. So this slide is showing a comparison of the tax increases in 2026 for municipalities across Elgin County. However, these percentages can be a bit misleading. So this is why we have provided more context on this next slide, which are the levy increases across municipalities. And I've also broken down what 1% of a levy increase represents in real dollars for each municipality. So as you can see, West Elgin has the lowest levy in the county in 2025, causing a greater fluctuation in tax rates as spending needs increase. So overall, this provides useful context for decision making and reflects similar cost pressures across the region. Finally, this concludes this presentation, and I'd be happy to take any questions or receive any direction from council at this time.
Questions from council? Yes. Councillor Statham.
Thank you, and I appreciate through you, Mr. Mayor, and I apologize if this sounds like a really stupid question, but you mentioned that there may be a surplus of I believe you said $183,000. given that our tax levy increase 1% is around 44,000, if there is in fact a surplus of 183,000 that is not allocated to a reserve fund, is that something that can be utilized to, let's say transfer into the tax stabilization fund and then immediately withdraw from that fund in order to decrease the impact on the levy?
Yeah, that can be done. Typically in my career, 41 years in municipal government, we set aside surpluses and deal with them for capital purposes. The problem is if you take 183,000 and apply it to this year's levy, what do you do next year if you got a deficit? Because you got to make up that 183,000 no longer exists. Sorry, no longer exists. So typically you would, use a surplus in any one year and just set it aside for some capital purposes or one-time operating, not just to fund normal operating expenses. Because as you can see, 183 disappears next year. You've now increased the levy next year by 183 divided by 44,000, which is what, 4%?
Yep, I understand. Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none. Further recommendation, please.
The recommendation is that West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from E. Nilsson, Manager of Corporate Services, Treasurer, titled West Elgin 2026 Draft Budget Summary, dated May 28, 2026, be received for discussion, and that council provide directions to staff regarding any revisions prior to final budget adoption.
Move it, please. Councillor Denning, seconded. Councillor Sousa, all in favour? That's carried. We're calling for a 5-minute break. Okay, we're back in council and we're going to 7.4.2, 2026 Water and Wastewater Budget.
Thank you. I'll just wait for the.
Emily, it's over to you again.
Thank you.
Emma, sorry.
It's okay. All right, this evening I will also be presenting the 2026 Water and Wastewater Budget Overview, including key drivers, rate impacts, system challenges, and I was going to present capital investments, but we have just discovered some incorrect numbers got moved over, so I will be providing an accurate and up-to-date proposed capital project listing at our next budget meeting on June 2nd. But I do just want to note that even with the change in the capital projects, all being funded by reserves. So it's really just the amount of reserve transfers out needed for the capital projects that will change and nothing else. So I will still talk about projected revenues, expenses, and proposed rate increases. So first I will start with the water budget. Next slide, please. The 2026 water budget is balanced, aligning with municipal financial policies, and it reflects the operation, infrastructure, and customer service needs while emphasizing sustainability, efficiency, and regulatory compliance. Total projected water revenue for 2026 is approximately 1.67 million, which can be achieved through a recommended 2% flat fee and 2% rate increase effective July 1st, 2026. To support ongoing infrastructure improvements and capital replacements within the Tri-County system, a flat fee of $36 per year or $6 per billing cycle will continue from 2025. Total operating budget is approximately $1.49 million. Major components include contracted services, wages and benefits, equipment maintenance, admin costs, as well as capital contributions to help fund future projects, which we will take a look at the capital projects in the next meeting. So if you can just skip over one slide. So water reserves, which this will also, this will change just because of the change that's coming for the capital projects, but where we are still projected to start the year in 2026 is at $1.97 million, and then a to be determined figure from transfer to reserves. However, we don't anticipate this figure to change too much, so we will still be sitting in the ballpark of $1.8 million at the end of 2026 for water reserves. The next for water users, the impacts proposed are as follows. 2% increase in the flat charge increases by $1.12. A 2% increase in water rates increases by 4 cents per cubic meter. What does this mean? For an average household using 20 cubic meters bi-monthly, this results in about $2.83 increase per billing cycle. And these increases are necessary to support capital programs and maintain system reliability. Next, I just wanted to touch on the Tri-County Water Board quickly. So West Elgin is part of the Tri-County Water Board with a 43% ownership share. We have an annual capital contribution of approximately almost $65,000 to support system upgrades, including the West Lawrence Dam pipe refurbishment and other regional infrastructure needs. And this investment ensures safe drinking water, reliable pressure, and long-term system sustainability. And this capital contribution will continue until 2030. Does anybody have any water-related questions before I move on to wastewater budgets?
Seeing none.
Okay, next I'll walk through the wastewater budget, starting with Rodney. The wastewater budget is guided by some key objectives. Maintaining safe and reliable service remains at the forefront, ensuring regulatory compliance, planning for infrastructure renewal, supporting financial sustainability, and maintaining stable, affordable rates. So next I'm going to take a look at the Rodney sewer revenue, which is projected at approximately $1.8 million, which can be achieved through recommended 2% flat fee and 2% rate increase effective July 1st, 2026. Next, the operating budget is approximately $363,000, representing a 13% increase. This increase is primarily due to additional need for maintenance costs, along with inflation of parts and equipment. We'll skip over this one for now, come back to capital projects at our next meeting. Again, reserve balances projected start in 2026 is $519,000. We will, like I will show in the next meeting, I think there's still going to be a need for large transfers out of this reserve, and details will follow in the next meeting. And next for Rodney wastewater users, the impacts are as follows. So the flat charge increase, the 2% equals $1.53. Increase in sewer rates, 6 cents per cubic meter. Again, for an average household using 20 cubic meters bi-monthly, this results in $3.91 increase per billing cycle. Finally, I have some key challenges for Rodney Sewer. So key challenges include rising operational costs, limited plant capacity if development accelerates more rapidly than anticipated, reduced reserves, which we will be able to see more reliable figures the next meeting, reliance on grants, and affordability concerns. So all of these will require ongoing monitoring. And I'll pause again for any questions before I move on to the West Lorne wastewater budget.
Yes. Councillor Swift.
Sorry, I saw the one slide, sorry, through the chair, I saw the one slide, the reserve balance. I mean, is that a mistake? That we owe, that transfer from the reserves, 451,000, and the balance ends up being 67?
No, so actually the major project with in the Rodney sewer. We did take a look at projected costs for the rehabilitation of the wastewater system, and it is $2.6 million worth of costs in 2026. We are going to need substantial grants, which we can take from other infrastructure reserves that we already have, combined with the Rodney sewer reserves. But just some of the other projects in there, we can get a more accurate list. But that $2.6 million main project, that is something that Dave and I took a look at, so that is accurate.
Thank you.
Further questions?
And also just to that, the ending balance of $67,000 and change, that does represent the budgeted surplus for Rodney Sewer. So we did not use that when projecting what reserve funds or grants sitting in reserves that we would need to use, just because it is subject to some fluctuations. So we left that surplus as a bit of room in there as well. So next for the West Lawrence, so sewer revenue projected at approximately $568,000, which again can be achieved through a 2% increase in both the flat fee and the rate increase effective July 1st, 2026. The operating budget is approximately $345,000, consistent with 2025. However, we do continue to see inflation pressures in equipment, utilities, capital replacement, but there was sufficient room left in the 2025 budget to keep it relatively consistent. And then we'll skip over the capital projects slide to reserves. So I wanted to highlight here that the balance in the beginning of 2026 is approximately $717,000. Even with our revised capital project listing coming, we do still expect a slight transfer from reserves, which will increase. Sorry, this should say transfer to reserves, as there was a projected surplus. So this might go down a little bit. I believe our projected capital projects are going to increase slightly, but we are probably still going to, in our next meeting, see a transfer to reserves, increasing the balance from that $717,000 for the West Lawrence Sewer Reserve.
Yes, Councillor Danny.
If I may, thank you, through the chair. Emma, or maybe somebody else on staff, I've noticed there's quite a significant difference between the revenue for the Rodney Sewer versus West Lawrence, like a significant difference in revenue. How do we account for that when the two communities are fairly close in size?
I'll pull up the details here, but Dave has. Yeah, I would anticipate it's user based. So for the West Lawrence Sewer, our budgeted revenue with the flat fee and the rate is $568,000, while in Rodney it's $420,000.
My apologies, I was looking at the wrong line. That checks out. Thanks.
Okay, yep, no problem.
Good job on the last minute answer.
Let's find my spot. Okay, so for West Lawrence rate impacts, we have flat charge increase equates to $1.47. Rate increase 6 cents. So for the same scenario we've been using the past couple of budgets, for an average household using 20 cubic meters bi-monthly, this results in about $3.67 increase per billing cycle. And again, these increases are necessary to support sustainability within these systems. Finally, I have some key challenges to consider for West Lawrence. They are similar to Rodney Sewer, but again, they are rising costs, plant capacity constraints, limited reserve contributions, and affordability concerns. And I did just want to note that currently the West Lawrence Sewer rates currently cover about 76% of operating costs. And then the rest is made up with that flat charge. So that concludes the water and wastewater presentation. So while pressures such as inflation and aging infrastructure continue to impact costs, continued contributions to reserves will be important to ensure the municipality remains well positioned to fund future capital needs and avoid significant user rate increases. I apologize for the lack of capital projects we were able to display at this time, but we will have a full and accurate list for proposed 2026 projects and associated costs at the next meeting on June 2nd. So I'd be happy to take any questions or direction from council at this time.
Further questions? Yes. Councillor Statham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I just had a comment. That was very well done. Thank you. Appreciate it. Very thorough. Excellent.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, recommendation, please.
The recommendation is that West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from E. Nelson, Manager of Corporate Services, Treasurer, titled West Elgin 2026 Draft Water and Wastewater Budget Summary, dated May 28, 2026, be received for discussion, and that council provide direction to staff regarding any revisions prior to final budget adoption.
Move it, please. Councillor Sousa, seconded. Councillor Statham. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. And we move on to 8, board or committee or council reports or updates. Seeing notions for motion? None presented prior to the meeting. Council inquiries, announcements. Okay, we go to 11.
Deputy
Sorry.
Mayor has her
Oh.
hand up.
Sorry. Deputy Mayor Tellier.
Yes, and through the chair, thank you so much. Quite some time ago, the chief had noted and made a report about how we have several names in our 2 communities that are exact or similar. So Jane and Jane, Monroe and Monroe, I can't remember the other ones. I'm wondering if we've gone ahead and changed those names or when that will be happening.
Yes, please.
Sure, through the chair to Deputy Mayor. Yeah, actually, we just discussed that at our last officers meeting. I believe it was last month. So we have not proceeded with that. It got kind of put, I guess, on the back burner for a little while, but it did come up just very recently. So it's I guess back on our radar. But no, we kind of discussed at a high level how we would roll that out and involve the community in that. So hopefully in the near future, we'll bring a maybe a refresher report or just a plan of action in place for that. So.
Great, thanks so much.
Stephen.
Okay, thank you. Further questions? No? Okay, we'll go to correspondence. Has anybody got anything they want to pull out of correspondence?
I'll read the recommendation.
Yes, please.
The recommendation is that West Elgin Council hereby receive and file all correspondence not otherwise dealt with.
Move it, please. Councillor Sousa, seconded. Councillor Denning, all in favour? That's carried. Items requiring council consideration. Patio extension, Elgin International Club.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, this one is brought to council. We've seen these come forward before from the Elgin International Club, and to extend their license, their liquor license for the AGCO, they do require a letter of support from council. So this is added to the agenda, just requesting that letter of support be sent to Lori at the Elgin International Club. Any questions or concerns from anybody?
No questions? Yes, please.
The recommendation is that West Elgin Council hereby receive the request from the Elgin International Club for an extension to liquor license number 801297 through the Alcohol and Gaming Commission, AGCO, and that council directs staff to provide a letter of support for the remainder of 2026 to be submitted to the Elgin International Club to support their application to AGCO.
Move it, please. Deputy Mayor Tellier, seconded. Councillor Statham. All in favour? That's carried. That's 13 bylaws. 13.1, 2026-33, designation of community improvement plan.
That bylaw 2026-33, being a bylaw to designate a community improvement project area, be read a first, second, third, and final time.
Yes, carry on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, would just a quick question, maybe this is for Robin for you. If would Rodney Old Town Hall fit under the CIPA framework? Would it be considered a community improvement project?
Because it's a municipally owned facility, sorry, Mr. Mayor,
That's all right.
thank you. Because it's a municipally owned facility, I'm not sure we can apply for grants for our own facilities. We'd essentially be taking money from one pot and putting it in the other, since we financially support those grants.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood what a community improvement project area is, but I thought that it was sort of like to extend municipal support to the community as a whole. And I wondered if there might be something within the framework that would assist with the Old Town Hall, I guess is the reason I asked the question.
So the community, the CIP programs, those are funded by the municipality. So again, we would be applying for a grant to fund ourselves.
No, I get that. I just wondered if we're renaming that. Just trying to think of what I was trying to say here. Okay, so if we're calling that an anchor asset or something that is perhaps has a label to it, maybe that would extend funding opportunities from elsewhere. Am I misunderstanding the?
If you're asking whether we can be looking for other grants for Old Town Hall?
I guess what I'm asking is, would using the community improvement project area and under that framework, would that make us perhaps more likely to achieve grants from other funding sources by calling it a revitalization anchor asset or something like that? Is there any scope for this designation for the municipality?
Oh.
Is there any scope for that assisting us in applying for grants elsewhere?
We certainly could use that designation. I don't think we need to do anything sort of formally. The Rodney Old Town Hall sits within the commercial district of Rodney, and it is defined as a area of a location for CIP. It's just because it's our own building, we wouldn't really apply for, we wouldn't be giving ourselves tax breaks because we don't pay taxes on our land. So, but we certainly, when we're looking at grants, certainly can phrase the language that it would be, a keystone to the community for revitalization purposes. I think it's just the language we would use ourselves.
Thank you.
You've read the recommendation?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm looking for a mover on that one. Councillor Denning, seconded. Councillor Statham, all in favour? That's carried. 13.2, 2026-19, adoption of community improvement plan.
That bylaw 2026-19, being a bylaw to adopt the 2026 Elgin Incentives Community Improvement Plan, be read a first, second, third, and final time.
Move it, please. Councillor Sousa, seconded. Deputy Mayor Tellier, all in favour? That's carried. And confirming bylaw.
That bylaw 2026-34, being a bylaw to confirm the proceeding of the regular meeting of council held on May 28th, 2026, be read a first, second, third, and final time.
Move it, please. Councillor Sousa, seconded. Deputy Mayor Tellier, all in favour? That's carried. And that takes us to 15, which is adjournment.
That the council of the municipality of West Elgin hereby adjourn at 7:23 p.m. to meet again at 4:00 p.m. on Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026, budget meeting, or at the call of the chair.
Move it, please. Councillor Denning, seconded. Councillor Sousa, all in favour? That's carried. Thank you, and thank you very much.
Have a good night, everyone.
See you, Tess.